Nobody loves me.
You're absolutely right.
Oh
You know
my
what?
God.
You're absolutely
Nobody
right,
loves
Akshay.
me. Thanks, Akshay.
That's
Am I
true
wrong?
friendship right there.
That's what I get
So much
for.
shit.
See, I think I learned my lesson. No more Keenan's roommates on the podcast.
What
That's
did
right.
I do?
I've
Never been
I'm
on
a
the
problem
podcast.
solver. I don't see how that's the problem.
Hey, I agree with you, pal. I
Oh,
agree with you.
I've been blacklisted already, and I haven't even been on. It's all good.
Okay, now we can explain that.
Okay.
We can explain
yeah.
that.
I think we're
No,
yeah.
I think explained by me pouring more into my glass is a good enough.
Clinkety clack.
Oh, I'm the only one not drinking.
I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking. Joe's
Oh,
not
good.
Here's a question, Andrew.
Oh,
What are you drinking?
Glenlivet 12.
Oh,
I
you
told,
son
I
of
told
a
Joe
mother.
that you like that. He like. I told Joe that you.
I
drink that,
actually
yeah.
have the rum reserve here. You know what? I'm gonna drink with you. Let me go pour myself a glass of the rum reserve. I have the
There you go.
Glenlivet, the rum reserve.
Wait, if you guys are drinking, can you give me 5 minutes to see if I can find something?
Absolutely.
Oh God! All right,
Oh,
go
I'll
ahead.
be right back. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Let me go
Okay.
pour myself a glass, Keenan.
Yeah, I'll continue doing some testing. Audio.
We can be extremely pretentious about what spirits we're drinking. It's like whatever.
Well,
It's all good.
the idea now is that we have our audio working. We have you guys on, which is great. This is hopefully when we play it back, the whole episode is fine. We have to make sure Joe doesn't walk over any cords on his way to and from the kitchen.
I would say when he comes back, I would hit record, just see what's up, and then when you guys hit your spots where you're going to be at,
Yeah.
then actually let's jump in.
Well, fun fact: we've been recording for the past 30 minutes, so.
I mean, that's fine. That's the most racist stuff.
all the racist stuff, all the sexist,
All the racist
racist, homophobic.
All the races.
No, Joe
I'm
really
no
got
longer-
his Glenlivet. He got it out. Look at
there
that.
you go.
All
Yeah,
right,
I-
I am back.
And Akshay's back with his drink. What did you get, Akshay, for your drink of choice for today's episode?
So, are you familiar with Japanese whiskeys? In this case, Satori whiskey.
Ooh.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, so that is what I will be sipping on during
Oh,
this
he's
pod.
fancy. This guy is fancy.
Yeah,
over
pinky's
here.
way up, bro.
Yeah,
Ooh,
pinky's
way
up
up.
on all sides over here.
Yeah, both pinkies are up, even the non-drinking pinky.
Oh
Is
God!
that your nationality? You're a Japanese man, or what's
It's
the
close.
deal?
No, distant neighbors. I'm Indian.
Yeah,
Indian? Oh,
He said
okay.
distant neighbors.
yeah. I'll show you a picture.
Neighbors.
And
I mean, it's fucking closer. Fucking. Never mind.
Actually,
Oh, we
That's
can
a
tell
Scotch
you've had some Glenlivet.
you are loose.
Oh God, Andrew, Akshay. There's a picture of me and Akshay. Actually, there's a picture of you, Andrew, but it's on my Facebook. I mentioned this on the fucked up episode I recorded. But if you could hear it, I said that you can see Akshay. You can see Akshay's in my picture, really, really young, fresh out of like fucking high school shit. When we first moved in together in the dorms at SF State, it's like at the very beginning of my photo, like the very first photo when I joined Facebook is with me and Akshay in it.
Well, there you go.
My computer.
This is my roommate.
That's
Well,
what.
it's not there.
Dear Darby, this is my roommate. His name is Akshay.
He has a whole Keenan has like a whole scrapbook of all his old roommates, and he just cries over it sometimes because he remembers
All the
old
time.
days.
Is that what I sound like, Andrew?
Andrew, hi.
Oh my god.
Welcome one, welcome all to episode 98 of the None of Our Business podcast. We are your hosts, Keenan, CNN Dunkaroo, C-Section, C-Notice, C4, C3PO, see your way out of here. Today, we have two very special guests. Keenan?
We have roommate number one.
Wait, which was roommate number one?
Oh God! Well,
Oh, you just
know.
made them decide.
Who came first or who you like better? Or both?
oh,
Ooh.
no!
Huh?
Fuck.
That's a breakout now.
Well, let's just go in historical order.
I'm emotionally hurt. Okay.
He's
Akshay
pulling the Band-Aid off slowly.
Akshay was my roommate straight out of the dorms, and then after we kind of split our ways, and I had to fill a big void in my heart, Andrew came along and became roommate number 2. But I don't have any nicknames for either of you. You guys have nicknames for me, but I don't have nicknames for you guys.
Not really. Like I remember you were on my Wii back in the day as Cowboy.
What?
Cowboy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I remember calling you MLC,
Yeah, what does that stand for
Ooh.
again?
my little Keenan.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
thinking Major Long Cock, but I guess,
Oh,
I guess I was wrong.
hardly. Keenan was the child in our dorm. That's
Oh,
for sure.
he was my little Keenan.
That's what they
Oh.
called me.
MLC.
I mean, little Keenan.
You just want to headlock him and just
Oh,
Right?
God. That
Just
hu-
noogies for days,
Little
pinch his
noogies.
cheeks.
I didn't
And
want
then-
to return to this.
And then all of a sudden, like, he closes the door and he's all alone, and then he's like, rage, fucking rage. It's like
No.
planning your demise.
Oh God.
Did we introduce Joe?
Yeah. Well, Joe's always like, "I'm just Joe," so
I'm just
we
Joe.
can skip him.
Okay.
You didn't even introduce me. I like the no name.
The no
Yeah,
name.
you didn't give him a name.
I told him
Fucking
Andrew.
Did
I
you
said
say?
Well, there you
Andrew.
go.
I said you were the void that filled my heart when
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. I wasn't paying attention to you.
Oh my God,
Sorry.
you're the heart filler.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
for those of you who are not aware,
We have two of my
we have
roommates on.
2 of
From
Keenan's
college.
roommates. Now, Akshay, you might have heard a couple weeks ago, he joined us on the pod. Unfortunately, due to gross negligence on Keenan's
Fuck
part,
you fucking dick.
the audio for that episode was a little misconstrued. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we can't do these guys like that." And Andrew had joined us for an episode, but that episode was completely scrapped.
So nobody will ever hear
So
it.
nobody
It's
was able to
the
listen to it.
Dorado, dude.
El Dorado.
It was.
episode.
It's the mystery
El Dorado.
episode. It's funny because you can hear Keenan and I speak the whole episode, and then we're laughing or we're like rebuttaling or something to complete buzzing.
But
I feel like you should just take a clip from that episode if you still got it,
Of course.
and you just edit in whatever you want, and then you guys cracking up. But you know how they have like those weird, scary kind of YouTube videos where then it's like Vin Diesel's like saying something, and it's like, yeah, so we need to do this and Fire Emblem, and you're like, what the fuck? It's like, I didn't even know that I was watching a video about Fire Emblem, but I guess, all right, you're in my feed, let's go. Like,
yeah.
That'd
Call
be
of
great.
Duty. Okay.
But yeah, both of them are joining us again. We just
Yes.
it didn't feel right leaving it like that. So we felt these were 2 quality guests.
Mhm.
So we wanted to make sure you guys were back.
We have the best
and,
of
I
both worlds.
secretly hate.
Glad to be back.
and you know what?
Yeah.
Better day to be back than the crowning of our new king. You know.
Oh, you can't say that. Oh,
Exactly.
can't say that.
I definitely
Boy.
don't mean that.
Oh,
Just for
God.
clarity's sake.
The true patriots here of London, England.
King John or George or one of those
King
fucks.
Biden.
You'll be
Queen
back.
Harris.
So yeah, Biden was
The winner.
he's president elect.
Are you too happy about that?
How do you gentlemen feel about that?
Go for it, Andrew.
Ooh, I get
Ooh, look
first
how
jab at that.
polite. See? Akshay's
Okay.
A gentleman through and through.
So my feeling on it is that everything that he's said has been very, very. I feel like the role of president has not really been filled because one of the big things to be a president would be that whole thing where it's like you are for the people, and it doesn't matter like if they voted for you. It doesn't matter if you're in the country. That is your role. It's up to the other people like senators, House of Representatives. They have their constituent. If you're the president, sorry, you have to be best interest for everybody.
Mhm.
And I feel like he's already said stuff and he's already made action that sounds like we're in the right direction. So it's like, oh, cool. He actually cares about truth and things like that, and hearing other people. Great, yeah, thumbs up. So that's my abridged version. I could go fucking 2 hours into that if you really wanted to, but I think I need more scotch for that one. So.
I heard that, pal.
Look at and see, Andrew's passing the torch to Akshay. I like how this is why I am the way I am, because of you two.
Now Akshay is my friend.
Oh,
it's
God.
my turn.
But
all right, so
I've known you long,
originally my ideology behind Donald Trump was rather positive, as strange as that sounds, because he made a lot of promises for my field, which is manufacturing here in America. And I got kind of hyped up thinking, oh, manufacturing is coming back. And lo and behold, none of those promises came true. So for me, as someone that not necessarily voted for him or did vote for him, just hoping for those promises to come true and just being left in the dark really, really hurt.
Okay,
especially my industry. And so now with change, I'm curious to see what that'll do for not only my industry, but for my peers as well.
That you made a good point, because I'm curious about how the hype train that he built up, if you or people that had the same thoughts like you actually decided to look at some documentaries, look at some articles, and see how much of a non-promising person he was from the get-go. Like, not just on you, actually, but even the, like, hardcore supporters who are like, yeah, he's going to bring back coal and fucking more construction and stuff like that.
More manufacturing.
And didn't realize that any documentary about Trump will show that he has not been a supporter of contractors, businesses, local city and government planning. Like, pretty much, even my favorite documentary series, Dirty Money, has him on there showing that he defaulted on a lot of stuff that he made promises to. And it's like, I'm surprised how people who have that mentality don't do the research. Like, did you do, once you got that on that hype train, did you like, okay, I'm going to look up Trump and see what promises he fulfilled in the past?
No, actually, for me, it was more of like, okay, now that you've made it public knowledge, all right, you've set your own expectations.
Okay.
Let's see you follow through on them.
Okay.
Let's start anew, right? Because I think everybody deserves an equal opportunity or a
Right.
second chance to say, hey, look, now I'm making it in the limelight in front of millions of people. In fact, the entire nation. I made a big promise, and I got to fill it. And to be honest, I don't think it has been filled at all.
Right.
So let's see where the new president-elect takes us. What do you
Right,
think?
because he could also be, like, that even can be expanded out to, like, what president kept their promise throughout history? Like, I don't.
Precisely.
I'm not of the belief that any specific president has been able to complete fully on their promises. I think that's
Absolutely.
I think that's rather naive to believe that a president is going to fulfill on all their promises.
Yeah.
Now, the expectation that they will fulfill at least, maybe, I would say even half of them. Even that's being optimistic, but being able to fulfill, a good portion of them, or enough to keep the people, at least at ease and not want to say replace you after your first term, would say a lot.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But don't you think that is so sad that you already come into every election not expecting people to succeed?
Oh,
and that
absolutely,
is okay?
dude. Absolutely.
Like, how bad is that? Like, if you're speaking for the general masses, which it sounds like pretty a fair assumption, that's brutal, and I think that's what needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so disillusioned in this country, like, just in general about our government. And
I can promise anything, and if I get it, I get it. If I don't,
and if
I don't have to deliver.
If your promises, become, popular enough, there's an opportunity that you might, get elected, which happened with Donald Trump, who gave everybody everything in the kitchen sink. He was like, hey, I'm going to do everything you guys have ever wanted, and then didn't.
Yep.
So it's like, it's more of a shot to the
what
gut.
good came out of the last 4 years?
That's a very good question.
I got fired.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen a whole lot that was driven by our current administration, to be honest with you.
I mean, and he also got rid of a bunch of his staff, so it's like, Fuck, I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't
he had a
think of anything.
revolving
Right?
door of cabinet members and.
But let's take it
staff
back
in
to
general.
the previous president. What did Barack Obama do that stuck?
He did a lot
Right?
of drone
And there
strikes
is no
on immigrant
short
companies.
list, right? There's so many different things that
No,
we
but
can,
he did
pick on.
progress.
Well,
yeah, no,
only
Right?
one-
There's a lot of progression.
yeah, and the
And
main thing,
a pretty good surplus.
the main support behind Obama is very racial. Like that, I think that's one thing no president can really do except for Obama, unless we have some more.
Well,
black
now we have
presidents.
Uncle
And now we
Joe
have
who's invited to the
Uncle
barbecue.
Joe.
So.
And we have Kamala
Yeah.
Harris, and we have Harris as the black female vice president. But for Obama,
Fantastic.
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
the idea that he became just the fact that he got in the office was like a huge triumph and a good symbolic symbol to give hope to African Americans. So that alone is one task that he fulfilled. Whether or not it was a task he was set out to do from the get-go, I have no idea. But that's one thing I can say for sure that was accomplished, at least for Obama, was
I mean,
to
one
give
of-
hope.
One of his main staples that he was trying to implement into the government took him a solid 8 years to do. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, when you think about presidents, it's kind of this weird, like, it's not just what did the president do, it's like, what did the president, one, inherit? Because Joe Biden at this point has got a shit show of a scenario that he's got to deal with. Not only does he have that COVID is doing stuff, but boy howdy, what is it going to look like when everything starts getting, quote, back to normal? Then it's like, hey, guess what? You're going to need like a bunch of econ majors to help you out with this one, because there's got to be a massive plan, because you paid a bunch of people in America a bunch of money. Where did that money come from?
Yeah.
Who the hell are we taxing?
Well, not only that,
to get that back.
but any like tax cuts or anything that Trump might have implemented in his tenure, you're going to see those taxes, in whatever this current administration inherits. And that's going to look even worse for Biden, for the people who don't really understand, how specific tax cuts or tax breaks or anything works. That a lot of the times you push this off, to the next generation or even the next administration, and that's what's going to end up happening. So that's kind of what might bite Joe Biden in the ass, inheriting such a fucked up situation from Trump, that it's not going to look on him either for those who don't understand just the way the government works.
And I think strictly just based on his age, being the oldest president that's coming in, I feel like there's a little bit of this understanding that he's going to be there for 4 years, and that's it.
I agree.
Like, I really, really do feel like he having, like, there might not, we'll have to see where he goes, but I feel like it's almost like this, everybody can kind of see that he's going to do a lot of bridging. That's going to be his biggest, how can I start reaching across the aisle? Who is actually buddies with him is like, Mitch McConnell and him have done things together. And it's like, I mean, how many of the Democratic candidates could we say that was the case? Because Joe Biden's been around
Forever.
in politics. Like, he was one of the youngest people that went into politics, and it's like, been around forever. Okay, a bunch of people, you've seen a lot of stuff, and just
can you get that for me? I ordered some pizza. Sorry.
We need to take a time out.
No, he's kidding.
I will be back.
Okay, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy. He's definitely a transitional president.
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
he's going to have a lot of work
Interesting.
ahead of him, and then it's after Biden that we kind of can see how we can warp and shape things. Because right now it's sort of just getting us out of this rut, kind of like the same thing Obama's getting us out of the rut of 2008.
Maybe he is the buffer. Maybe in order to get over the Trump administration, we just need a buffer president, just to,
Pretty much.
kind of see
It's
if
so
we
sad that you folks are thinking about 4 years from now, and we haven't even lived a minute of this Biden administration. Man, I'm looking to tomorrow, guys, not 4 years. Like, I want to kind of see what happens. I want to see what's around the turn, not what's at the other end of the block.
But I think when you're getting a president, it's like you kind of have to think bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
like
absolutely.
there's a lot of people that like pick Donald Trump for all sorts of different reasons, and I think one of the bigger one that was like a big microscope on it was this guy's coming out of nowhere. He doesn't have a lot of he doesn't have political background. He's just this dude basically compared to everyone else that's ever been president. And it was like, oh, well, that could work in our favor for sort of a bunch of different things. And then once he got in, like the first thing that he does, then everyone's like, oh, okay, this might be a long one.
Yeah. It's almost like he was the acetone that everybody wanted to clear the slate, and in fact, he did that and worse, right? He melted.
But he was
chunks of
acetone
slate
that you
into
used on
base.
plexiglass, and it just fucked up the plexi. So now you have to make it frosted. It's just, it's just weird.
I was-
We didn't say it was the perfect acetone. We said he was acetone.
There's a fucking hole in this now, man. There wasn't a hole before. What are you talking about? That wasn't,
That wasn't
Yeah.
there.
I'm
It was
just-
Antifa that made that hole.
I'm just sad that I won't get to see Trump slip up and tell us about Area 51. I was really hoping that he would spill the beans on that shit.
Do you really think he cared about Area 51?
They probably didn't tell him.
Do you
They
really
probably
think
didn't tell him
something's
shit.
at Area 51? Like, honestly, like, what?
I want there.
What
to
is
be.
your thought behind this? You want there to be.
Keenan wants it
Man,
so
that's
bad.
crazy.
he wanted
You
to die
want
in
there
there.
to be, and
Yeah.
therefore there has to be. That's a terrible
Facts.
argument.
Facts, Akshay. Facts.
Fact.
Keenan on his off days, just driving out to the middle of the fucking desert, and he's building his own goddamn Area 51.
I
That's
can.
when you became an engineer, and you're the expert in facts.
I did technically inherit a piece of land out in Nebraska in the middle of nowhere, but
This is. Are we going to go into this?
well, we can
Talk about it.
Well, Akshay doesn't know about it, unless I told you.
I don't.
Okay, so Akshay, what happened?
No.
What
This
is
is not pod news.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. I guess he told you guys about it in his Dungeons of Dragons session,
No,
didn't
I
he?
mean, I went down to LA for a hot second,
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I saw Keenan in person. So
And
I
Akshay
have
has yet to come to
COVID. I
Los
mean, what? But Keenan was like basically drops the story, and it's like,
It's pretty crazy.
bring out your legal pad because let's go. One, either lawyers are helping them out, or two, let's get Hollywood on this
Something like
because
that.
it's like
Go ahead,
So-
Keenan. Spill the
iced
beans.
it up.
I'll tell Akshay. So what I found out that my grandfather on my father's side passed away 2 years ago, January 2019, and I found that out because I got a letter in the mail telling me from this law firm that I'm one of the beneficiaries to his estate, and I had no idea what it was talking about. So once I dug in further and like asked questions when I called up the law firm, turns out my grandfather, first of all, had a caretaker, so to speak, who, to the end of his days, he decided to write a will and wanted to give everything that he owned to this lady who was taking care of him. But the way he wrote it was not according to the state law of Nebraska. So the court voided the will. And then she decided to file a claim against the court and wind up asking for some type of compensation for taking care of him. So she won the claim and got $10,000. But that also means that because the will was voided, it now goes back to me and my brother, and also my uncle who's in jail, who turns out that according to state law, he is still entitled to the inheritance even though he's in jail, because as long as he did not kill his father, he's still entitled to whatever's left over. So after finding that
That's
out,
a pretty low bar, man.
I know.
As long as you didn't kill his father.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
on. Sorry.
He could have killed anybody else.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious.
what
like,
I got was apparently so because his house was abandoned for 2 years and it took that long to find me and my brother, the house has been looted and burglarized multiple times. So he used to have a Ford Model T,
wow.
and another car. I forgot, it was like an M something, but obviously that was, that's gone. But he has a
I
house.
thought, I thought he got rid of that because it was he was starting to go in the red, right? Wasn't that the thing? So
Not so much in the red, but yeah, he didn't really have a lot saved or
information
dropped.
I didn't even know.
It turns out, yeah, I'm withholding all this information.
Juicy.
No, so he had a house and he had land, but the value of the house and land is so shitty that there wasn't much really of value that the banks don't even want to buy back the property. And the property is on a piece of land that used to be nearby a lead smelting factory 100 years ago that polluted the surrounding area, that they had to come in and dig up like 6 inches of land everywhere just to get rid of the toxic poison and stuff that's in the ground, contaminant. So the house and land, which looked pretty large, was only valued at about $40,000. And what the cost is, which is what I showed Andrew, because I received an email saying that the process that the lawyers took to get all this information out and to me and my brother cost almost $20,000. It was like 17,500 something. So,
which all of this was hilarious because it was like, not that you owe money is hilarious, but the fact that it was I hang out with Cianan and he comes up and he's like, yeah, so my grandfather died like 2 years ago. And it's like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah. And apparently my brother and I and my uncle might own land now. And it's like, what the fuck? And he's like, so I guess that's happening. And we're like, oh yeah, that's great. Like hours later, Cianan just is like, what the fuck? Like, and he's like checking his email going, I owe $17,000.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, I don't know shit. Get in line, motherfucker.
Not my grandfather.
Exactly.
I don't even remember Papa.
What a paternity test.
This ain't no bank robbery.
I also found out that my grandfather also has an illegitimate son. There's a fourth uncle that I don't know about, who lives in Los Angeles.
The plot thickens.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing that I brought up to Cianan, and I'm kind of curious on everybody else's opinion. So the whole entire thing about all of it is that it's your dad and only your dad, or was it your dad and your mom kind of made the decision to 86?
It was mostly my dad. He didn't like his father, so he kind of disassociated us from everything on that side of the family.
So if stuff went down, Dad says Grandpa is you cannot deal with Grandpa. Don't even go there. And to the point where Grandpa didn't even contact you that he's dying XYZ.
Right.
Now that you know that there's this other person that is a part of your bloodline.
Yes.
Would you go and meet that person? This other uncle that is like a half uncle? What would you call it?
I don't.
Yeah,
half uncle.
Would you guys go, oh man, I feel like, because they're somewhat blood, I want to know their story kind of thing? Or would you be like, fuck that shit?
Well, the curious person in me would want to find out, but I did ask around, and pretty much my entire family is like, fuck that guy. Nobody really wants to interact on that side because they really just didn't like my grandfather and the things that he did, which I'm like, because I'm the youngest one, I'm like, what happened? I'm such a curious cat, but people want to shield me from knowing the truth.
You're 36. Who the fuck is shielding you from anything?
You are. You said you're my
grown
protector.
ass man. Oh, that's true. I am your
protector, dude.
Yeah.
So that means
protector.
Joe,
I am.
Joe, that means you got to fly out to Nebraska. And
I'm gonna have to find out who the illest motherfucker in Nebraska is.
Oh God.
I'm just gonna get off the plane and do Nebraska and start punching people in the airport. It's like gonna get arrested, dude. That's, I mean.
Well, maybe I'll find. Maybe I'll find his uncle in the system.
Oh shit.
So, Keenan, serious question: are you gonna seek your
Claims?
new uncle out, and when?
I don't know. I really don't know. I might later on when everything is like done and settled with, because because the bank.
Wouldn't you want to find him so you could tax him? Be like, yo, you're part of this mess too, player.
Well, he
5,000 each of us is going down.
Well, he hasn't responded to any of the messages and letters from the law firm or the courts.
Oh, okay.
So there's a possibility that he's dead, or or doesn't
damn.
want anything to do with the family, which is what seems to be the vibe. Like nobody really liked my grandfather, and my dad and his two brothers pretty much just hung out here in Los Angeles, and a lot of people have passed away, so there's not really anybody left except the uncle who's in jail. So, so it's like I don't, and my own brother doesn't want to have anything to do with this at all. So it's more like it is curious. I am curious to see what he looks like and what he does if he's still around. But when I'm gonna do it, maybe after my birthday.
I don't know, man. It seems like that. Life is way too short, in my opinion.
National treasure. You gotta do it, man. You gotta know.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, what happens when you open Pandora's box? Oh fuck, like one of those. Like if people are saying, you look in that thing, you're gonna get poked in the eye with a knife, and you'll lose an eyeball. And you're like, I'm really curious.
Do you want to lose an eyeball, Keenan?
How does it poke my eye out? I want to know, and then you do it.
Well,
it's super Greek, apparently.
That's true, but we have to learn from that person's mistake to know that we don't go near that box.
Okay.
Right? So maybe Keenan has to be the person. So if we ever find ourselves in a similar predicament, we know what not to do.
Well, Joe can come with me. He's my protector. So,
Joe's gonna come back with an eye patch and be like, "That shit wasn't worth it." Fuck it.
He's like, never go back there.
I don't know. I have
mask is the worst.
I definitely do have a life of my own that I need to get settled. I mean, my business is trying to get up, and I'm trying to do the whole dating thing. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's question. If this was your mom's dad or your mom's mom, and they had another child, would you do it?
Probably
a grandparent that you may have liked more.
Well, that side of
another child, would you do it?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that side of the family is really close, and they kind of like each other. I mean, even though some of them might do some stuff, that they want to keep secret, but on my mom's side of the family, it's probably a lot easier to meet them or be curious about them because they're kind of well connected, and they have no problem talking shit about, oh, this person just had a kid and that's not his real daddy or some shit like that. They'll probably still hang out.
Cutthroat over there.
But it's very.
So
different.
They would never tell you, no, don't go talk to this person, or no, we're never going to talk about this person, even though we know about this person, we're just going to discredit them and say that they don't exist.
The opposite. They'll acknowledge them and talk mad shit.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad's side is like, no, let's just not associate with them. But my mom's side, they'll just talk mad shit about them, and still invite them to the barbecue.
I feel like the signs are there, the bad blood is there, and there's nothing like when it comes down to family bad blood, like you can have siblings and you can have discrepancies. You can have parents where it's like, fuck you, dad, it's because of you, XYZ, fill in the blank.
Right.
When it comes down to bad blood, boy, I've heard some.
Yeah.
Even in my own family.
I was going to say, your family too, right, Andrew?
God.
Like, Andrew, don't you have some, beef within your own family or no?
Well, I brought this up to Keenan before. He's no stranger to this story. it was up to the point where, like, I don't have to go into details, and it's not
Oh, no,
like,
please do.
you
Please
know,
do.
it's not like, okay, so my grandpa on my mom's side, and I don't want to go into super bad, like, you know, so my grandpa, her father, you know, he basically, my grandma I never met because she died before I was born, right? So my mom was really young, and my grandpa ended up saying to my mom, basically, because she has a sister, and then it was her dad, so there's the three of them. Mom passes away, and he basically looks to my mother and says, "You're going to run the house." She had to cook, clean, all this shit, and basically became a slave to my grandfather. And up to the point where, like, I won't go into specifics because I'm sorry, Mom. Like, I know she might not listen to the podcast, but if she does, I don't want to, go into it. It was,
I get it.
like, it got to the point where the final straw was he basically was super pissed off that she put too much salt in his meal, and he hit her.
Wow.
And she at this point was 18 years old. She spun around and sucker punched him in the stomach, and then just started packing.
Yeah,
she peaced out.
That's right.
Yeah, Andrew's mom is like super gangster. Like,
and she's like, my mom is one of those people that, like, I've had several occasions where my friends will go, "Is your mom on drugs?" Because she's so fucking happy. And it's because she's had some dark carnival shit happen to her. Like, that's just one element. And then she lived on her own, kind of worked her way through life in, like, so many different hard ways. And then there's even more stories I could tell you about how fucked up her family is, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like one of those things where it's just like, she ain't got time. She's like,
wow.
no,
Get her and take no shit from no one.
Yeah. So she's not a person of malice. She just is like, let's bring joy to the world. So she's the happiest person. Kind of scares people because she's so happy. She's like a crack shot with guns, which is like, whoa, okay. Like, back in the day, she used to throw cans in the air and would juggle the can with bullets, kind of.
you never would see it. Like, if you meet her, you're like, no way she does this.
You would be blown away.
Yeah.
And so to kind of wrap this story up, so my grandfather, he has really good genes, took care of himself. He lived to almost 100. And he got up to the point where his body was like, "No, dude, you don't have an appetite anymore." And they're like, "Let's give him marijuana so he can have an appetite." And it's like, oh, well, then, like, he's a vegetable at this point. Why the hell do we want him to live? Like, if he's like, what's the quality of life? Different.
He's just old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing altogether. But, like, I don't think that's what he wanted, kind of the way that his life was. So we'll just fill in there. I'm sure that if I was a part of the pod, I would probably get a lot of flack for that. But anyway, moving on.
Man, not at all. Come on.
It's so cool.
So
my family,
basically,
the family dynamic in my family is like a Game of Thrones. Like, everybody is against everyone, and
Joe did
no one
have
likes
a ride.
anyone. Yeah, so like
I mean, as long as you're not fucking your sister, that's all I'm asking
I'm
for.
definitely not a Lannister. Definitely
There you
not.
go. That's all okay. As long as you're one of the other people where it's like, man, your whole entire family died. How do you feel about that? And you're like, that's just
That's
fucked
just
up.
the
I'm
way.
not famous.
That's the way it is.
So, Akshay, do you have beef in your family? Oh, sorry, Andrew. Let
me finish the story.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is the punchline. So it got to the point where my grandfather was on his deathbed, kind of thing, and he was kind of like dementia, whatever. And he said, like, "Oh, what about Andrew?" Like, kind of thing. And my dad came up and he was like, you should probably see him because he's on his last way, and you haven't seen him for like years. And I just turned both my mom and dad and said, I am openly against seeing that man. And my dad got hella fucking pissed. And my mom was like, I respect that. Like, she was so, like, cool as a cucumber. Like, I thought she was going to say more. And she was just like, yeah. And then that was it, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
While
and
she's
I
holding
like,
onto her katana. Yeah.
yeah, and then as she's digging it deeper into my gut, and I'm like holding my core together to hold the blade. Paint that picture. No, she and to this day, like I have no regrets. Like I thought that man was something else, and to this day, like even if I learn more information where he was like he's doing better, he did all this for you. It's like if you only knew the story of like you could throw money at it or whatever. Like he helped with some of my schooling and stuff like that, but the stuff he did from like my mom's psyche will never be prepared.
Yeah.
And she lived a harder life because of this man. And I mean, it's circumstance and whatever, but it's like, no, I stick to it. Like, that's it.
I'm glad she stood up for herself. That is not easy to do in that time frame.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, oof, she went against the grain tenfold.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Huge.
And she's one of the, like, stealth hard people in this world where you're just like, I had no idea. And she'll, like, if you go into it, she'll just be like, and here's some shit. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, you bring up, like, guns. And she's like, oh, yeah, I used to be a crack shot. And she won't bring up gun stuff right now because she's like, man, my eyes are just so much older. I'm not going to be the same. So she won't take you out shooting and stuff like that. Like, because she's just like, I'm not the same caliber. And you're like, damn, I just never would have thought that. And like Cianan is probably, Cianan's probably just like, when I first told him, he was just like, what?
Yeah, because I know her. I met her, and it was like, it's weird. Maybe she'll take me shooting on my birthday. How about that?
She'll take you, but not me. Damn it! Not like I'm a gun advocate or anything like that, or want to go shooting. But it's like it was that big of her life. Like she even at one point lived in Alaska and was like, "Yeah, I have hunting rights." And it's like, motherfucker, were you gonna about to tell me you're gonna skin some like a moose? And it's like,
elk.
I mean,
she was like, I can if I need to, son.
Last of Us was, about her apparently.
Oh shit. And that will lead into a great question I actually brought up in a previous episode. But first, I want to find out because we were all talking about stories about our family, and like I'm pretty sure every family has some like bad juju. Is that also in yours, Akshay?
Oh, absolutely. I think every family does have bad juju, and I don't want to air my dirty laundry. Unfortunately, I'll keep it quiet. But I will tell you that there are things that I don't agree with. But I grew up with a very different family dynamic. It was literally just 7 people in my family. We had my mom, my dad, my brother, myself on one half, and then my uncle, aunt, and my cousin on the other half. And that was it. It was just the 7 of us here in the Bay Area. And so because we were so far removed, I mean, the closest family was like 1,500 miles away in Texas or, 3,000 miles away in Miami, so we seldomly saw people. And when grandparents came to visit, they were coming from South Africa, they were coming from India, it was quite long distances, so very rarely. So for us,
was there beef?
We didn't really grow up with that tight community so much where parents like didn't get along with folks. But we could definitely tell that there was a reason why we moved so far away to get away from it all. When you're with such large families, I mean, my family is like 2,000-3,000 people at this point, if you count both sides. And there can be a lot of hostility with all of that. And we trace generationally, I trace 17 generations right now.
God,
so if I could see
damn.
17 generations worth of family members, I mean, that's a crazy origin story. And I've got the family tree. I can't read it because it's in a different language, but I know where I am and I know where everyone is in relation. And it's crazy when you get people together. I mean, we book entire cruise ships.
Jesus, Akshay's
for
royalty.
a family reunion. But no, hardly. I'm so distant that I can't speak to it because I stay away from it. I've seen what familial drama does. I've grown really close with a couple of folks, and I like to maintain those relationships. But for the most part, I don't talk to family because I know what it can do to me, and I know what it can do to my relationship with them.
Anyone who knows me knows that that's how, like, pretty much how it is for me. Like, I get along great with half of my siblings, and the other half I don't get along with, and that's
Wow.
siblings. And I have a handful of cousins that I communicate with often. But besides that, like I don't speak to uncles, I don't speak to aunts on either side of the family, and that's just it's not because I don't want to go hang out with family or anything, but I understand like what the dynamic is when you go into these families, especially like I have a ton of cousins and a ton of aunts, and there are like times where they don't get along with each other, and I'm like, man, I'd rather just avoid all that. I'm about good vibrations, about having
Yeah,
fun.
be happy. We're family. We're blood. It's a
Yeah.
rare thing. There's 7 billion people in this world. We all share a little bit of blood, but we share more.
Yeah.
Be happy about that.
And
it's just crazy.
it's crazy because I think like even with Joe's thing, like not only do you think like Joe, you have your partner, and like how does her family dynamic?
Absolutely.
Like I personally, I'm about to get married. I just recently got engaged, so there's this whole entire thing where it's just like, I love my fiance's family. Like
They're cool.
They're pretty cool.
They're super awesome.
But there's
Even Keenan loves them.
Yeah, I go to. That's right. Their
Oh,
house is
yeah.
in. Well, see, it's in the valley. Joe doesn't cross the mountains after Universal Studios. So.
Oh man, Joe, you missed out, man. If you came out and if we did a pod with and we were hanging out at their place, we would have been, because then it would have been like, oh, we're doing a pod, and then her dad would just swoop in and be like, you guys want some margaritas? And it would have been like, what the fuck? Like, and then you just get ripped. It's fun. They're great
He
people.
works for Disney.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where it's just like they got their own stuff and they have their family stuff, and I seem to see that it's like if you travel further away from your family, like his family is from the East Coast, her is like East Coast Midwest is kind of her family. Sometimes there's like along the way you see some crazy moments in those stories, kind of thing, and it's like. They're great people and they have their stories, and it's like everybody has it. That's the family dynamic. Those are the people that your genetics pick those people, and then we get to be fortunate to you pick your own family friends.
Absolutely. I'm huge on friends. That's why I care so much about like the friends that I do have, because I treat a lot of them like family, like
Or worse.
or worse, like. But
Poor
I-
Keenan.
Friends are
and
the
again,
best family.
yeah, and
Yeah.
again, that's because
Are
that's because I don't have I don't have like such a connected relationship with my own family, because I don't like some of those people. Like, so I'm not about to hang out with people I don't like. I'm gonna hang out with people I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird, and it kind of brings you mentioning just having your partners. Just curious, Akshay. I know you don't want to go too deep into your personal life, but I know you have a girlfriend, and how does that add to you? Because you're used to such a small family, or not getting together with your actual relatives. Um, is the family dynamic with your partner, and how are you incorporated into that? Like, how have you acclimated to
Good
her
question.
family?
So at this point, I've only met her mom. We've been dating
Oh,
for
okay.
over a year now. And there's some tension within family, which is, kind of similar to some of the tension that I feel with my family. So we
Gotcha.
relate quite well, which is a breath of fresh air in
That's
some
crazy.
cases.
That's awesome.
And I guess that's the way things line up. I mean, you pick what you want, and
In the
I
end.
got very fortunate, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully somebody will
absolutely.
pick
It took a long time, but I found the right one, I believe.
Nobody
Hey, it's all about partnership. That's
There
how.
you
That's
go.
how like. I've been in relationships like the whole time thing where it's like you've been with somebody for so long. I don't necessarily agree with that. I've been in relationships that's 7 years long, and that was not. And I was not. That's not the one for me. And then
Yeah,
this
interesting.
current person that I'm with, it was like even the way, like, it's funny because like the whole entire thing with COVID and things like that, and it was like do you want to get married? And it was like, yeah. And then it was like, what the heck? And then you start talking to other people, and they're just like, see, that's how you know that it was just, there was no hesitation. It was fluid. You guys, you just are on the same page. There's like, you might have arguments, you might have all these things, and like, it goes even further. Like, I love her parents, she loves my parents, and it's like, man, like, you start thinking about other girlfriends or whatever, and you're like, I fucking hated my parents. Like, and I'm not saying my parents are fucking saints or anything like that. It's like one of those things where it's just like, that's the magic of it. There's a fluidity to our relationship that just, like, it's like, didn't even occur to me. And if shit went down, if it did with my parents or her parents, in no time, it would be like, they're there. And it's like, damn, I never ever thought that way with any other person.
Oh, okay.
Like, fuck.
That's dope.
Good.
So,
That's super dope. Yeah.
Actually,
it's all about that partnership. Like, if you are there to fill in the gaps of the other person, then that's what it's about. So I won't hog that conversation anymore. You can stay your stage.
Because there's one single guy on this fucking show. No, I want to get to the question Akshay brought up before in a previous episode, because we were talking about guns, at least with Andrew's mom. And I think it would be a great question for Akshay to ask Andrew, since Akshay got me and Joe's opinion, and we can restate our opinions. But no, but if you could, Akshay, again for our listeners, since the audio was really fucked up, ask Andrew the question related to guns.
Okay.
Because Andrew was our buddy when we played Destiny, and
really? Great.
And
excellent.
And we're really trying to get him to play Call of Duty, but he can tell you his story on Call of Duty. But yeah, go ahead, Akshay. Ask Andrew.
All right, so my question stems from a tweet or a Reddit post that I saw where someone related population between us in the United States at about 350 million people, with the UK at significantly less, 1/5 of that, around 60 million people, to video game sales. And the correlation was, again, 1/5 the size, but in terms of sales, America had, I think, 25 billion, give or take, and Great Britain had 3 billion pounds, so about 1/5 in terms of sales. So they asked, well, why were there 14,000 gun-related homicides that certain groups blame on violent video games versus a handful in the United Kingdom? And what are your thoughts to that statement? Do you think violent video games or gun-related video games begat gun-related violence or crimes?
All right, so
that was a whole lot to take in.
Yeah, I think I need more alcohol. I'm confused. Like, it's like no one was like, shit, do I get? So my opinion on violence in certain, just in general, I think even without it being like certain video games, like, because I grew up in the era where like Mortal Kombat was the thing that made it so there was a rating system,
Yes.
So that was my era where it was like, yeah, Mortal Kombat, and I can't remember what the other one was. And then I remember it was the funniest thing because it was after everything was said and done and everyone was like okay with it, then like fucking Doom came out right afterwards, and it was like, you done goofed, because Doom is like next level. You goofed. But when it comes to gun violence, like, I don't think there's really I never wanted to go out and shoot people, like, or anything like that. And I'm not saying
violent video games, right? You could argue Destiny has guns in it, and you shoot.
Oh yeah, and I played my fair share of games with blood and different things. Like, even if you think about just like the context of even Mario jumping on a fucking turtle,
right?
Like, that shit's hella violent. Or the fact that he fucking steps on whatever a Goomba is, which,
and he takes mushrooms.
He takes mushrooms.
And he takes mushrooms. Like, there's all sorts of things where you could take super, super negative routes for anything, and you could correlate anything. You could probably even correlate. I drink orange juice a bunch, and somebody could come out of the cuts and say, if you drink X amount of orange juice every day, you can get cancer. And it's like, I have data on that shit. And it's like, what the fuck? I'm never drinking orange juice again. Like, if you really, really wanted to, you can make numbers sing you a song.
Precisely.
And then it's like, but where's the logic? Like, I've worked with kids for a real long time. So there are things where I do agree that if it is the thing that they see a bunch, then they are going to like play in that way. Like if you see a bunch of Batman, you're going to be like, I'm Batman, and you like fly around, and it might be like Batman's playing with the dinosaur, and like logically that doesn't make any sense, 5-year-old, but cool. I'm a roll with it. And it's just like, okay, yeah. And then sometimes these things will involve guns, but the concept of a gun versus what we know as a gun, like they don't understand that a bullet passing through the flesh is burning and cutting through at the same time. Hollow points, like all these different things where it's like the gritty nitty, like they don't understand.
Right.
That's right.
They just see the respawn timer and they're like, "Oh, you just come back."
You just come back. Like even a game like what's the difference between like Fortnite versus having your kid play Call of Duty? Would you say there's a difference? Whereas like
not at all.
Call of Duty's better. That's what's the difference.
There you go.
I see a
You had to get close to the mic on that one.
It was like, why aren't you playing that shit?
Although
So when are you gonna play Call of Duty with us? I guess that's a good segue.
there we go. That's the real question, Akshay.
I'm peer pressured. Well, I'll bring this up.
Yeah, tell them the reason, Andrew, why you don't play Call of Duty.
Before I jump into what I think, so here's the big thing. When I was 5 years old, there's this classic story. My parents rented Silence of the Lambs. They started watching the movie, and I was there. And they went, whoa, this movie is like, I don't think they realized what it exactly was going to be. So immediately they tucked me away, and they're like, no, you are not watching this movie. Me being the little bastard that I was, I went and snuck down the stairs, and I hid behind the couch and watched the entire film as a 5-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad, I remember verbatim, it was one of those things where it's like, you knew that it was because the fear was there. Movie stops, and my dad stands up and says that movie was really fucked up, turns around, and I am scared out of my mind because I'm like, wait, I didn't think of an escape plan. He turned, he sees me, and just goes, and white as a sheet, just goes, you're going to bed. I didn't get in trouble, so I'm like, something's up. The next day, what do I tell my parents? What's my favorite movie? Silence of the Lambs. Whoa, boy. Whoa, boy, as a 5-year-old. And it came down to, then they said, well, why did you like that movie? What was it that you really took away from that movie? And I told them I really, really liked the police lady, the Clarice character. And they were like, whoa. What? And I was like, she was a detective, like kind of thing, or whatever, 5-year-old, I don't know what the exact thing I said. But, and then even from there, because my parents didn't shoot me down, it's almost like detective stories. I fucking love them so much. And I feel like it was one of those things where my parents were like, hey, motherfucker likes detective shit, even as a 5-year-old. Like, I saw Seven when it first came out. And like right when it was on VHS, I saw that shit, and I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And that's just Dark Carnival at the end. That was the first experience where it's like, how does that shit end? And then you're just sitting there going like, there's no happiness. What happened?
What's in the box?
And then credits roll.
This didn't end right. The cop was he was supposed to win.
and to hammer home, I'm not like writing Kevin Spacey going,
Dear Kevin Spacey, I put my mommy's head in a box.
like I didn't do that shit. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that movie is ultra violent in so many different ways, and there's so many things that they hide it where it's like, how gruesome was it when the Joker slams the dude's face into the pencil in The Dark Knight? And it's like, that's one of the most violent scenes.
True.
Oh, wait, it's PG-13 because
Yeah.
they did it in the right way. It's like, okay, but it's PG-13. You can get away with it. It's like, okay. Like,
Yeah, because there's no blood, and they didn't show the eyeball popping out of the socket when he came out of it.
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
some shows do show that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think the argument to say that what you see is going to be reflected, there's way more going on. Think of the more bigger picture. These people that do terrible crimes, why is it that they are pushed to that brink? You know, why is it like, what happens when you get a person that might have for the most part, you know, because we're all different, like a pretty sane picture of life, but you put them under enough stress. And even as a young adult or a young kid that's still in high school, what happens when it's like you hit that brink point? There's so much more going on there. And then just to say it's because of violent video games. That's what it is. It's like,
Again, like I mentioned this before when Akshay had asked us this a couple of episodes ago. That it's just a scapegoat. It's like you're trying to find
Yes.
something else to blame. You know, some would argue that, you know, old westerns also incited violence. You know, and I just felt it's just a scapegoat. People use it as a scapegoat.
Yeah, well, it's definitely
Let's
not
take
going
this to a new level.
Okay.
Do you think that the
Akshay is the
NRA
next host.
oh,
do
there
you
you
think
go.
that the NRA takes it to that next level?
Never.
It's-
They won't. They're staying.
I mean, they're
in their
not
own-
going to admit to it, right?
Yeah.
No one would admit to it. But do you think that they do?
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Keenan.
You talk too much. No, I'm just kidding. No. No, I just wanted to.
Scott!
There's one moment, or at least one story I remember hearing about with the NRA and gun rights and stuff like that. But it actually is more racial, where there was like an NRA member who was black who got like shot, I think, by the police or something like that. And they were looking for like some sort of help or call out from the NRA, but none ever came. And my take has always been the same since it was formed. And when they and when they tried, and when they went up against the Black Panther Party, when they were registering themselves for guns, it's always been a negative look on that group. I don't see anything positive ever coming out of the NRA for pretty much anything at all. Even when it comes to even helping their own members. And that's sort of my feelings on the NRA. Like, regardless of censorship and video games and correlations and stuff like that. Like, I don't even think they came out and said anything during any of the school shootings at all. And I'm not even sure if any of those kids had fathers who were in the NRA or something like that. But the fact that none of them really spoke out or got back behind it as the way they lobby and get behind certain passing of bills should show the kind of character that they are.
Are either of you gentlemen in the NRA?
I am not, but I do like going to the range occasionally, and I have a wonderful time shooting, doing targets. I've done skeet. I've never shot. I've never gone hunting, but I have had a lot of range experience and time on the range, and I love doing it. I don't own a firearm, but I have fun.
Have you
You know,
been
shooting with
offered
my
to
friends.
hunt human beings yet?
The dangerous game.
I don't think I could talk about that here because that's a crime within itself in some country. So I'm not gonna.
This is a
answer that
national. This is a
question
national
either way.
podcast, so we
It's
must be very
Dangerous
careful.
question, Keenan.
Hey, as long-
Incriminating all over.
as long-
Up and down.
Wow.
As long as you don't answer
Keenan.
it. As long as you
We
don't
see
answer
what
it.
side you're on. Okay, Keenan.
I meant in
Jeez.
video
Oh.
games.
Snitches
Oh,
get stitches,
okay.
pal.
That's-
You guys offer to go into the AO every night, and I've had to turn you down every night
That's
because
true.
I've had to work.
That's true.
So technically,
And
in
when he
that
says
case,
work,
yes,
he's
Keenan,
hunting
you have
people.
asked me to hunt human beings.
In the video game, of course. But
Yeah.
yes,
Oh
let's-
yeah. Clip that section carefully.
But let's get on Andrew's case about getting him to play Call of Duty.
Please join us. It
Because
was really fun. We'd love to have you.
Andrew is a good first-person shooter player. He is.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yes. Now,
Okay, yeah.
Now
That happens.
the level of which, I mean, he's not on Akshay level, but but he
I
is
don't even know
good.
what that means. You've set a bar beyond what I can even see.
Exactly.
He seems like a really cool guy, so he's obviously better at shooting.
Let's just put it this way: if there was like some type of like alien invasion or something, and we had to fight them via drones or like a piloted robot or something, Akshay would definitely pilot that robot through a computer. And
I'm
he'd
that
fucking
guy. I've
win.
got 127,000 kills in
Jesus.
Modern Warfare right now. And
Yeah, that's
in
all
the top
today.
5,000.
Is that where then I'm that dude in the fucking shadows with the cigarette, and I'm like, I don't count my kills.
Put it this way: I think Keenan and I maybe only have 10,000.
barely.
10, 20, yeah, around there.
I
So, like-
should probably tell you.
Maybe.
First person shooters really got to give me something to make it worth my while.
Like
And I feel
Borderlands,
like-
right? He plays Borderlands. We used to play Borderlands
Borderlands,
together.
great game. That's a lot of fun.
So I'll say the games that we already talked about Destiny. We talked about just now Borderlands, and those are games that I can consider worth the element. I've played enough video games to be in that weird cusp area where it's like people start realizing that you're a really, really good gamer. Like back in the day when it was GoldenEye when I was a kid.
Classic.
People would pay me $20 to get every single cheat code in the game because some of them, they're like, there's no fucking way that you're going to get the facility in like 207.
I remember
That's
that.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I give them back the game and I'm like, give me the $20. Like I just gave you every cheat code. And they're like, what the fuck? It really comes down to it's just a problem solving kind of thing. And I've played enough games where even when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was plagued with the people that were starting to hack the game, that was like, that was nerve-wracking and I'm still getting kills. And it's like, oh, okay, like, I guess I'm still doing really well. And then once it got to the level where it's like you start the map and a helicopter comes out, you're like, I'm out. It's over. I'm not dealing with that. That's a 7 kill. Fuck you. No, it's over.
Yeah.
When it gets to that level, but I was playing, I play a lot of shooters, but when you play, there's such a toxic environment when it comes to video games because it has that element of when you're on the mic, you can say the most terrible things. And I've heard some of the worst things in my entire life on the mic because it's like, fuck it, like there's no filter. And you're just sitting there going like, I have a great story about, so my call name on PlayStation is Kirby Pooty.
Right.
And it's combining two things that I hold near dear to my life, which is Kirby, the Pink Puff, because his philosophy is amazing. And then Pooty because of Pootie Tang, right?
Dang.
So,
Hey.
and there's a little bit of my nickname in middle school was Pooter, which is another thing altogether. But we'll save that one for a different time. Moving on, Kirby Pooty has a bit of a connotation if you're kind of, I don't know, but I've definitely had when I was playing Call of Duty, both Modern Warfare 1 and 2, where people are like, it's a faggot, that Kirby Pooty guy. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, that is so left field.
Right,
So, you know
right.
what I do? Whoever posted that, or if I see their little mic flickering, I murder the fuck out of them. That's what I did. I was like, that's not acceptable. So I just, there was this one story where it was obviously a team of people because, when it's a team, you can see the mic fluttering. If it was old school, you can see their mics fluttering but you can't hear what they're saying. But if you see 4 of them and you're like, oh, they're all on a goddamn team, you're like, this is a loss. Like, I could get like 15 kills and we'll still lose. It doesn't matter. And so they decided that they were hot shit and they were saying certain things over the general chat. And I was playing on PlayStation, and this guy, they keep on saying, they're grilling me. They're like, oh, that fag, that fucking, and they're saying crazy shit like dick sucker, all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, like dicks, I don't have a mic. So I'm just like, I'm fucking railing on this one guy. And this super crazy, like, squealy kind of voice comes out and goes, no, man, that Kirby Pooty is a real deal, fuck that shit. And he's like trying to get away from me, like running. And I'm just like, no, I know where your friend is. You're trying to ambush me. Like, I hit the corner, take his friend out, and then I tag him. And it was like real. I got like 20 kills. We lost, but because it was a team. But it was like, it was one of those moments where it was like, yeah, what the fuck, man?
Well,
you have no idea.
That's the wonderful thing about this game now is that you can just mute those people. Because
Exactly.
for me, I stopped playing altogether because it was so toxic. And then once I started playing this game, I'm like, all right, I'm going to only play it for a little bit, and then I'm sure I'm going to get tired of it because of like all this banter. But once I started playing and I saw that there's an option where you can mute people you're not playing with, and you completely block them out, I'm like, this is the motherfucking game right here.
And
like,
you have friends that play. Like Akshay plays, and Akshay introduced us to some really cool people like Hugh Janus, and Joe.
You say his name again one more time. Who was it?
Hugh
what?
Hugh Janus?
Hugh Janus.
Hugh Janus.
Hugh, you know Hugh.
His name
Hugh
is
Janus.
Hugh.
And then
You're going to have
Joe.
to spell that out for me.
Yeah, and Joe introduced us to Serge, Brad Liddy, and then I bring in the connection between Akshay and Joe, which was magical.
Look at him taking his credit.
So it's
Oh, look at this. Brought in the connection. All of a sudden there's
Come
like
on.
big line.
Yeah.
And your eyes get super anime. Connection. Like, it's like fucking. It's just hilarious.
I unlocked an achievement from getting Akshay with Joe, but because of the people that we play with now, you don't have to do a lot of random arenas. I mean, you can, but fucking Joe's guild, which is technically what it is, his guild has like 20.
TSG?
Yeah, it has like 25 people.
Oh,
in it.
the Liddy
Oh,
boys.
oh,
Liddy
what it
boys.
is,
Liddy
man.
boys.
Yeah, and there's always somebody to play on there. And then I brought my friend in from playing Apex to play Call of Duty, and it's just we obviously talk about like every time we play, it's always new, it's never the same.
Andrew, we're not going to stop trying to get you to play this game until you play
Oh,
it.
no. I appreciate it. I'm apparently that good of a command. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
So I'll bring up something if you guys ever feel this way.
Okay.
So as I get older, and I've been playing video games all my life, like
Same.
probably one of those things where it's like you probably should have not introduced your child to Mega Man 2 when they are fucking like 3-4 years old, and it's like, motherfucker, I gotta beat the robot monster. They're just crazy. I get the powers. This is the best. Like, here's the thing.
Okay.
That just got weird. Here's the thing. As I get older, it's turned into, like, my time is super, super limited. So I find myself in almost like, it's hard to describe exactly, because it's like, okay, so Call of Duty, I would say Smash Brothers, and I'm trying to think of something else that's just like fucking widespread phenomenon that's like
Fortnite.
maybe Fortnite. I'm trying to think of things that
Smash
people
Brothers,
actually play,
Fortnite,
like
what else?
esports, like quality, like.
Oh, League of Legends. League of Legends blew up.
If we were fucking 10-year-olds when this shit was blowing up, it would be like, yeah, man, let's make our.
I would not
team.
pass my class. I failed.
Yeah, you would be fucking like monsters, right? Because how much I put into fucking GoldenEye, and it's even funny that it's like the people I played with that I schooled as my backyard buddies, basically, when they went to college, they were like legends, basically, when they were playing GoldenEye. Like, people would talk hot shit and then just get schooled and be like, how did you? And it's like, don't even worry about it. And it's like, that's the level. Like
I was
we were
born
fucking,
into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you dedicated, right? But it's as you get older, it's like the games that I'm trying to kind of pursue have to have a certain something to it. Like Borderlands is a first-person shooter. I like first-person shooters, but Borderlands always has a way of every once in a while, like I catch a chuckle out of myself, like laugh out loud chuckle because it's so fucking ridiculous, you know.
So
And
you're worried that there's not enough content as you get older, or you're just getting very picky.
no, it's more that it's like, okay, so then if you play like a multiplayer thing, it's great in competition, but like you're not gonna get to the gross level of motherfuckers have optimal clicks and like fucking whatever World of Warcraft like shit, you know, or StarCraft, where it's like that's the next level where it's like if you didn't do that split second click or you didn't do that combo with Ryu properly, then that means you missed that window. And it's like, I'm never gonna want to get to that level. Like that's holy shit. And it turns into, well, competitive games don't give you a storyline. After a while, you just get to the point where it's like, well, I'm grinding it out, and yeah, I have fun. But there is a little bit, as I gotten older, I've played a couple multiplayer games. Like, I picked up Smash Brothers, and I am super stubborn. It doesn't matter if the person is a super tier or whatever. I will be like, that's my character. I picked Ike because I fucking crushed it in Fire Emblem. I was one of those sick motherfuckers that played the hard mode, and it's like, you know, in Japan, that's Maniac mode, and you played that, and it's like, I didn't even know, and I didn't care because I play hard. Fuck you. Like, that kind of thing. So I played Ike, and Ike is like, he's good, but like compared to other people when like the shift
character, yeah.
The meta shifts and Ike stays, right? He's not good, he's not bad. Compared to when the meta shifts, it's like fucking Zero Suit Samus is all of a sudden just like the best fucking character ever. And you're like, she was like one of the worst. What the fuck just happened? And you have to adjust. And then it's like, well, what happened with Ike? And you start reading the cheat sheet of like the patch, and it's like, Ike is still Ike.
So you're worried that there's
the others have just gotten better.
You're worried that there's no story for you to be interested in the game?
I just almost feel like there's like this, I don't feel the same gratification. And it might just be because I'm just getting into like an old grumpus. But like, I feel like even if it's an old school game, like I just started for the first time because I've been really, really scared. And this is going to piss people off. I've played Final Fantasy VII. I've played a chunk of 8 and hated those games. And 9 is supposed to be
all right, well, that was a great show, guys. All right, here we go. Let me see.
No, hear me out. So I had this thing where I was like, oh man, like I'm really scared about Final Fantasy IX, but people keep on bringing up like, and that was one of those.
I can't mute it either.
This is the last PlayStation game for PlayStation 1. So they're pushing the engine to the max kind of shit. And like I was like, I don't even care. Like it's not going to be that great. So I picked it up on my Switch. I started playing it, and I'm like, this motherfucking game is great. Like, damn. Like I feel okay playing old school games and all these different things. And it's just like, but if there's no quality there, like it's even like I start getting really petty about nitpicking. Like, why do I not like Destiny? There is so many things on Endgame that I'm just like, there's nothing there for me. I play the same content.
Okay, well, so I think.
Question for you. Oh, go ahead, Keenan.
No, your question.
No, I've been talking a lot. So let's get.
Go ahead, Akshay.
Akshay, go ahead. You first.
All right. So my question is, Andrew. Every game that you've mentioned, it really sounds like you're more of a PvE person. That's player versus environment, where you play kind of like NPCs and stuff. Versus, I think like Joe, Keenan, and I, we kind of like love the PvP element, like the player versus player.
Here's the weird thing though, because here's the weird thing. This is Joe speaking here. Joe speaking.
Joe's talking.
Joe has the.
There's an adult in the room.
Joe, the floor is yours.
I think. No, sorry.
He's like, motherfucker said something about Final Fantasy VII.
No. Okay, because I'm very much a PVE guy. I love story-driven games, and the only reason I started playing Call of Duty is because I used to play Call of Duty, but I had stopped. Remember, I had stopped playing
Yeah, you
all
mentioned that.
all like first-person shooters. Like this is the first-person shooter
Since
that
Destiny.
I play since Destiny's
first person shooter.
isn't it the third person?
Yep.
Nope.
Nope.
First person.
First.
And you played that a lot
yeah,
with us.
I did play that a lot.
There's
Yeah.
a couple of third-person elements, but that's in like a special.
Oh, that's
mode.
like when
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
when
Before
you
you blade.
throw
Ultimate.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah, when you throw a super, you go into third person.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right,
like,
you're right.
oh, back to first person.
But
Or when,
yeah, I had
yeah,
played a
it's-
lot of like just first-person shooters in general. Like I stopped playing Destiny. Like when Destiny 2 came out, I played it for like a month and then I was done.
I loved it.
But-
it was such a good game.
Yeah, it's a great. Game. I actually want to get back to it, but whatever.
I would love to play again. I just don't have anyone to play with, so maybe I can play with Andrew after this.
Ooh, he
Ah,
doesn't like it.
I'll
enough.
join. If you're gonna
Oh, he doesn't
play
like it. Forget him then.
I'll play.
So here's my take. So now I'm currently playing Final Fantasy 14. I know that's night and day compared to fucking Destiny. It's a first person versus MMO kind of type thing. But like, I've looked into. The Final Fantasy did their homework. Their end game has appeased multiple people. When I started playing Destiny, and I played the shit out of Destiny 1 to the point where I
Yeah, we
even
were
was
doing everything. We just.
dude, I was a sick motherfucker and did a raid by myself to get platinum in that game just because I could.
Right.
And I did that shit. And it was like, why did you do it? Because I just wanted to see if I could do it. The problem with Destiny is there's not enough content that makes you want to play older content. Final Fantasy has this thing where it's like there are rewards that actually matter to a character, that it's like you can help out people that are going through the game and we will reward you for that. In Destiny, they don't give two fucks, and up to the point where you get up to the raid and it just turns into just grind for that gear, man. You got one raid. New expansion comes out, just grind for that gear on that new raid that's coming out. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play one fucking thing over and over again. And the only thing that I'm doing that might piss me off is like, you're like, Joe, you need to be on that platform. Joe, be on the platform. Joe, we're wiping.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to do it right. Joe's on the platform. Okay, then we beat the boss. It's like, that's not fun. Like,
Man,
and
yeah, I
know there-
remember those days.
That's
I would fuck that up
every
a lot.
day, though.
Like,
And that's what I said, because I play MMOs along with Akshay plays MMOs, and pretty much every raid you kind of have to repeat it depending on the level of the gear. If it drops like 0.5%, you're going to be doing it like consistently. And even to explain on Final Fantasy 14, we've played a lot of dungeons over multiple
over and
times.
over again.
Yep.
So-
I failed a lot.
Yeah.
But the difference on that one is when you run those dungeons, you are getting a reward in a different way. Like you'll play one of the first dungeons and get one of the highest rewards. And it's like, that makes no sense. And it's like, that's the system. The system is built on you are now a person that's filling the void for that person that needs a forward group to run this dungeon. Because you were fulfilling that role, here's a bunch of bonus shit. XP, money, even items that make it so it's like that's end game material for even a person that's in a tier like to the highest level in the game. And it's like, that's the way it's supposed to be done. You gotta do your homework. Like, and it breaks my heart because the mechanics in Destiny, like, fucking Bungie killed it. Like, I
really did.
love
That game
to
was fucking
fucking play that game.
I love shitting on the video game companies in this episode.
But it's one of those things. And it's one of those things where it's like, is it Bungie's fault? Is it Activision pushing Bungie to make the game as fast as
Could
they
be
can because
Activision.
of the deadline? And like to this day, like I'm a big fucking like anything that comes out that's from software, I will suck the tip out of that game because that shit is my jam. And they have a thing where it's like, hey, guess what? There's that one game that Activision and that, and I'm like, I don't care. From Software did it with them. I don't care. I still to this day have not played it. And to this day, one of my favorite games of the last decade is motherfucking Bloodborne. If you've not played Bloodborne,
Yeah, and Andrew can.
That game is so fucking rewarding. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard of it. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah,
What
you're
is
gonna have to
Bloodborne?
have a separate conversation with Akshay because Andrew can go. Andrew practically programmed and wrote the game of fucking Bloodborne.
You know
And he plays
what,
it so
dude?
much.
He loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it a
Because
lot.
I have no knowledge of coding whatsoever, but I wrote the game.
He did. Every little nooking. He writes his own strategy guides. Like he knows that game in and out. Even he knows stuff that the programmers deleted, and he's the one that found
I
it.
honestly think because even though, say for example, Warzone, Call of Duty, Warzone, even though it's just a big map and it has that battle royale, it is a battle royale. I think even though you're dropping the same map, it's a different experience every single time. Like
Yes, we've played it. We played it. I don't know how many times. It's a lot. It's a fucking a lot since we started playing. But there's never been a moment when starting up the game and finishing where I go, that was boring at all. Never. Or I felt like I'm repeating myself, or I felt it was. Let's just say every single time I play, even if it's solo, I still have a satisfactory of enjoyment of that game. Whatever. I come up with whatever word I fucking want.
I come where I want.
I come where I want. I can come here. I can come there. I can come.
no, but yeah, it's definitely and the fact that we get to play up to 4 people together, and you kind of have to strategize. You have to have a game plan, especially when you get closer to the end. You really have to buckle down on on becoming a team. I think that's just phenomenal. I
Utilizing resources.
Again, exactly, and again, like I hadn't played a Call of Duty game in years, and a huge reason, even though I played Destiny, I would never play the PvP portion of Destiny. I hardly ever played that.
Oh, I grind the fuck out of that.
Yeah, see, for me, I didn't want to play that.
Iron Banner, I was on it. Like I had a full set.
Yeah, for me, I didn't want to play that because it was too repetitive. But now that I play this Call of Duty, I play Warzone, and I play the actual multiplayer, I have the flexibility of saying, okay, well, I ran 3-4 matches on the Warzone on the Battle Royale. I'm gonna go let some steam off in the multiplayer for a little bit because I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to listen to anybody talking shit to me if I die a million times because I just mute everyone. So now the element of me playing PvP that didn't want to play PvP because I had to interact with all these people that I didn't want to listen to. Now that I can mute them completely and not have to deal with even my own teammates, now I'm like, okay, now I can really play comfortably because I don't have anyone breathing down my neck telling me how many that 15 kills isn't enough. Like, yo, chill the fuck out. Like,
Now I'll bring up a actually pretty interesting phenomenon, like about just video game stuff altogether. Is that I wanted to touch base on. Bloodborne's an old game. Akshay just basically said, I've never heard of that game before. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you picked up Bloodborne, that game is so motherfucking cheap at this point that it's like, it's same thing with like, you guys are talking about a bunch of multiplayer and shit like that, and it's like, but at the same time, you might pick up The Witcher 3 for like $15, and that experience is like donkey punching the shit out of any multiplayer experience. Like there's a lot of repetitiveness, but I feel like the phenomenon of backlog, like things where you just buy like a certain game, like it was the same way like John, who and even a little bit, I know, Keenan, you don't really like Metal Gear that much. Metal Gear 5 comes out, and I've played every single fucking Metal Gear game. And Metal Gear 5 comes out, and I basically go, I could wait. And it got to the point where the game is like fucking like on sale. You could get the whole entire thing sometimes for $5. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's the precursor game, Ground Zeroes, and fucking Metal Gear 5. And I was like, dude, I'll play it eventually. And my buddy John just kept on saying, you're an idiot. Why would you not play that game? Up to the point where it's a similar situation. I have The Witcher on my Switch. It plays great. It plays great on my Switch and I play it. And Keenan's like, why the fuck are you just not fucking losing your life to The Witcher? And I'm like, I got time.
Because it's a fun game. It's like one of those games that has what you're looking for. A shit ton of content, a shit ton of side quests.
But that's what I'm getting at. It's a fucking mind-blowing experience.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 5, amazing for what the price is right now. Fucking Red Dead Redemption 2 probably right now is probably dirt cheap, and it's probably one of the best video game experiences that probably people have spent like an hour into it, and they have like legit writers writing like what happens to these characters, kind of thing. The vagueness in the time and quality, where it's like people have even stated one of the best PS4 games in the entire catalog is Bloodborne, and Akshay doesn't know about it. It's like there's a bunch of games that it's like I'm not saying
Akshay's defense, he's a PC gamer.
Is it on PC, Andrew?
No, it's not.
Oh,
that's another thing.
No wonder.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't know about it.
But that's one of those things where it's like that's such a great game that you would think. Not saying Akshay, fuck you or anything like that. Like you're, like even if you say I'm a PC man and that's like defense. Even if you owned a PS4, I would be that guy to go. I want to open the door, and I'm not motherfucking Willy Wonka guy to be like, and look at the magic.
Well,
there's so many games for PvE. Even like Keenan recently was like for a good, I would say, week. It was, why the fuck are you not playing Control right now? Well, I have it. It was on sale. I bought it, and he's like, "You can't play the game." And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Control is really fun, but it's on multiple systems, and that's again going back to the Call of Duty that we talk about in the show all the time. Is that because it's cross-platform, we can all get in on it no matter what system we play, which gives it that extra bonus, that extra edge.
I think that's kind of why we have an advantage when we play in quads, because Akshay plays on PC, so
he has a mouse and keyboard.
He's able to.
He's doing that mouse keyboard action.
He's doing the mouse keyboard action that holds us down. We're able to stay alive long enough to revive him if he goes down as well.
You get the right settings, man. You can move your. It's not the same, but you can flip the stick. Optimally.
Whoa, get it.
I couldn't.
Just gotta flick the stick, huh? All right.
Is that what we're calling it?
But I'll say there are a handful of games as a gamer that I've played certain video games. It's gotten up to the point where it's like I've not played Last of Us 2, but I've told people, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people being like, "You're a PvE guy, and what the fuck is wrong with you?" I've played Last of Us 1 and said that shit is more gritty and hardcore than shit I've seen on Walking Dead. And it's a similar thing. Like, what do you do when you're pushed to the brink? And there's certain things that happen in a game that it's like, when I think about it, I get goosebumps and I'm like, that was fucked up, like to the verge of crime, like kind of thing. Like video games have this potential of telling such great stories. Even one that doesn't even have any vocal anything was there's a game on PS4 again. Sorry, actually, is called Journey, where it's one of those things where it's they made a point to basically when the game came out, they said you're a dude that kind of looks like, think of Jawa from Star Wars. You're a hooded figure. You can't see anything of the character, but you're a hooded person and you have the scarf. You can jump, and the only thing that we show you that's out of the ordinary in this entire desert is there's a mountain, and on the top of that mountain is a glowing, glimmery, like shimmer to it. What do you think you're supposed to do in the game? You go to the mountain, and as you go to the mountain, you'll see other players don't even have call signs, and you can't use a mic in the game. They have a thing where you can do like a silent, like flicker, a medium flicker, or like you can hold it and let out a thing that carries a little bit more. You can keep going on the journey with that person if you want, or you don't have to. And it was one of those games at the end of the game, I was fucking in tears. And it's like, what the fuck? It's a video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a premise, for that paper thin premise, it's like, how the fuck are you crying? And it's like soundtrack, just the overall message that is super universal.
You're really moving me, Andrew. You're really moving me, man.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So have you guys heard of video games being kind of like the most modern form of art? Typically, art is music, it's drawings, it's paintings, but video games in its own right is a form of art.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
is.
visceral because we get to play it and enjoy it, and everyone enjoys it differently, giving them a different take on this masterpiece of artwork, whether it's Call of Duty, Destiny, you name it, Final Fantasy, every single one. It's the only artwork that you can actually experience
Interactively.
physically.
Yeah.
Interactively.
Unless
What are your thoughts?
I platinumed Ghost of Tsushima.
I was about
That's
to
a
say
game.
about that.
Really?
I platinumed Ghost of Tsushima. I platinumed that, and by the end of that game, I was crying like a little punk. Like
Wow.
that game is a masterpiece of a game. I will say it, and it's just like a masterpiece of art, just in general. It's such a beautiful game. I could screenshot almost any scene in Ghost of Tsushima. I could screenshot, I can print it, and I could put it on my wall.
Yeah.
That's how beautiful this
Beautiful.
game is. Like that's how gorgeous it is. It shows all the elements. You could go to a snowy mountain. You could go. You go to a forest. You go to a swamp. It's just such a beautiful game that you can literally take a screenshot of any of those scenes and just put it on your wall. That's how beautiful these games are. I mean, you could look at even The Last of Us. As I know the second one especially, like you could do the same. You could take a screenshot of any scene, and I think even some of these games actually have snapshot modes where you could turn it into a camera and take a picture of your favorite scene. That's because they know that these games are that beautiful.
Right.
It's cocky.
Well, I mean, that's the idea. What the people who worked on those games treat it as art, which is why it can be put in that category of art or specialized art, because the people who work on it think what they're working on is art. Just because obviously, and as art is so totally subjective, the basement of how we perceive these games totally relies on us, but also how it's brought to us in this format is on the people who made it, and they definitely consider it a work of art. So yeah, totally, to answer your question, it should be considered
interactive art.
Interactive art.
I consider it interactive
Yeah,
art.
and once
Absolutely.
galleries start having VR walkthroughs and shit and stuff like that, where you can touch a Monet or whatever.
How cool would that be?
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as you don't walk into fucking walls or other people.
It didn't work.
There's always that one person.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that kind of mentioning? There's no Akshay, are you familiar with something called The Void?
The Void? No.
Yeah,
fill me in.
so there's something in Los Angeles, and I don't know if this is just LA, but there's a facility called The Void, and it's a VR experience. And the one that I did is the Star Wars VR, and so there's
cool.
there's several rooms, and you walk through each room. But
I did it with Cianan. I can thumbs up this shit too.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's the rooms are pretty much empty, but obviously when you put on the headset, there's things everywhere. You can shoot at stuff, you can duck, you can.
Okay, wait a minute.
What?
Andrew,
What?
did you just say you did The Void with Keenan?
Oh shit! Deny,
Joe did
cancel,
go?
cancel. Abort, divert.
Keenan,
Wait,
what the fuck?
Playback
They got John, they got Hachi. I'm pulling out.
We can go back to. I'll go back to so you don't get shitted on until later on.
Go to last
I'll
save
go
point.
back-
Go to last save point.
I will go back to the artistry of video games.
Oh no,
Okay.
no, Andrew, we're joking.
Oh.
We're joking. You don't have to.
Oh, okay, fuck it. Go ahead.
No,
Man.
You
no.
son of a bitch.
I'm gonna cut you deep. Yeah,
No, it's
We're joking.
But actually, it's an experience, and it's not that expensive either. But it's here in Los Angeles. But it can be considered an interactive art gallery of sorts. As Joe's looking at me, but something like that, I think is.
Thank you, Joe.
It is a possibility in the wheelhouse of the future. Whether or not they feel like there's a real investment in it, will they actually have fucking museums full of just VR shit? But the medium of video game art is definitely there and existing. Like it's not. I don't think it's something. It's good to be questioned, but I think it's an easy answer.
I think it's hard to debate that it isn't art.
Because then you have to debate what is
Yeah,
art.
exactly. Because if you could consider a TV show or a
nudity.
movie a masterpiece of art,
Mhm.
like if you can say that The Godfather is a masterpiece and it's an artistic masterpiece, like I would argue that The Last of Us is also a work of art.
Mhm.
That
Oh yeah.
any number of X games like
Ghost of Tsushima is
Ghost
definitely.
of Tsushima, God of War is a piece of art. You
Mhm.
know, like
Or like even like fucking Citizen Kane versus like a Monet or some shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Or
like,
Dance Dance
it's just
Revolution.
because it's a fucking different medium.
he said, Dance Dance Revolution. Get the fuck out of here.
There's now fucking thank you,
Not
Joel.
even the makers of Dance Dance Revolution think that.
And
But
you
even
know,
that could be
it-
hotly debated because technically it is music, and music
Oh,
is an
yeah.
art. So
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, how
Anyway.
many hours we spent on Rock Band, but that's a different thing altogether.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's art.
If I will point this out, and I know I brought up Final Fantasy a lot, but this is highly documented. If you look at Final Fantasy One, the people that were on the team of Final Fantasy One, the guy that wrote the music and the guy that did the art for Final Fantasy One, if you look at their stuff, what they put together, that art, the art sketchbook of Final Fantasy
Oh,
One,
yes.
video game, Yoshitaka Armanu has amazing art, and they were like, "You're going to be our artist throughout this entire thing," and his art is fantastic.
Absolutely.
The music guy Nobu, his shit, like doing the 8-bit thing, he does orchestra like level, like he's done.
I've been to his
full-on-
shows.
Yeah, and it's like the dude. It translates well into actual music, where it's like, no, this is like movie quality. shit.
Yep. Yeah,
Like,
it really
it
is. It's a score. It's a score. It's a cinematic
It really
score. Yeah.
is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Like if you haven't heard it, there's a whole entire thing where there's Distant Worlds is where they've done a compilation of a bunch of Final Fantasy.
I went
stuff.
to that show
And-
here in LA, the Distant World show.
I went to one, but I have a feeling that Nobu was at yours, and
Oh, what if you went
He
to the
was.
same one?
He
Oh,
was.
okay.
He definitely was.
I hate Joe, but it's fine. It's fine.
Every
it's
day.
fine.
That's my statement. I hate Joe every day.
But it's one of those things where it's like
I don't hate
the,
him. He's my best friend.
the amount of art that goes into something like, and that goes into even balancing a game, like the artistry that went into the guy that made Settlers of Catan, the mathematical artistry that went into what's a game that's not going to be like fucking Monopoly, where there's a point in Monopoly where you're like, I'm just a bystander in all of this. I don't even want to be fucking here anymore. And they're like, you can't leave because, you own Park Place. And it's like, motherfucker, I just want to go home.
I want this game to be over.
Like, I feel like the only board game that I've ever had where it's like, I want to stick around to the end and even is Risk when it's an old school game because you're like, I want to see that motherfucker lose.
Yeah,
Like,
Risk destroys families. So
It
Yes.
does.
And friendships.
For me, it's Jumanji. You can't technically leave until the game is over. So
But you get to hang out with Robert Williams.
Rest in peace.
RP.
I did want to ask a quick question to everybody because we're not closing, but we're almost towards the end of our season of None of Our Business podcast. We're at 96 episode, 98th
I
episode.
said the number.
I wasn't paying
Let's
attention.
go.
Okay, we're close.
And it took this long for me to be what?
I know. So, but the year's almost up. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think the next year will bring, or what you're hoping the next year will bring.
That's a fucking loaded question.
That is a fucking
Go for it,
loaded.
Andrew. Bring it on.
Oh! Okay. So, my take on what is to come potentially. I mean, it's pretty interesting because we haven't had anything as global as this in I think our lifetime. I can't even compare anything to this. And it's one of those things that it's like, if that's the case, this is a unifying kind of moment. What do you do with that? Time of reflection. What do you do with that? Time for fear. What do you do with that? There's all these like things that it can go so many different ways. And, it's one of those defining, like, as a species, you really, really, really could prosper from this in the best way possible, just on a philosophical level, just ethical level, even just realizing maybe this is a time for me to grow, or maybe even see that people are reaching out to me, like even the factor of, think of all the Trump supporters at this point that are probably feeling fucking defeated, especially during like having COVID and all of this. It's like somebody reaching out to them and actually being like, no, like we have to help the country. Your ideals are worth something. You're not a stupid person because I might not agree with you 100%. Like, there's so many potential here. It's ridiculous. I feel like this is like a soapbox almost. Like, what the shit?
Right? It does almost. feel
Okay, well
like
then
it's
you're right.
Grammy
Fuck the
Keenan.
question. Fuck the question. Back to fucking on Destiny.
Like, go fucking talk to Akshay. Like, fuck, I'm sorry. Like,
I'm happy listening. You've got some great insight.
I think so
like
too. No, but I don't consider that a soapbox. But
you're like, this was not fun. We're making this happen.
You'll get a soapbox, Andrew. Trust me.
yeah, you will get a soapbox. He's like, well, that was my soapbox, you fucking asshole.
My soapbox is gonna be like, just plunge out the bowl.
Oh god.
And it's like, oh,
The metaphor no one gets.
it's
No,
like,
no,
don't worry about it.
But you see the potential in what?
I feel like there's a lot of potential here, and there is a lot of potential for us fucking up a bunch of shit. Like, Joe Biden might be the worst fucking president fucking ever. Like, potentially just because you have a great stance and you sound great. I mean, the bigger picture is like, how is he going to actually help in certain situations? And, how is he going to actually implement that presidential role of, okay, if I help out this group, is that actually going to fuck over a different group? Because there's a lot of give and take with the country, just in general. That's just how it works. There's a certain amount of resources, and it sucks. And, sometimes the delicate balance is like, that shit is super fucking racist, and it's like, oh my God, like a bunch of white people are just going to get more power or whatever, or Epstein, like, fucking can keep on doing whatever the fuck he was doing. Like, it just so many different levels, and it's just like, well, I have a kitty friend. He's coming out of the cuts. That's fine. Yeah. He's gonna fuck with me, but it's cool. I'll blow alcohol at him. He's a young cat, but he's rambunctious.
Put the
so
cat
he's
on
gonna
the
fuck
mic.
with
Have a
me.
side conversation.
Yeah.
No, he literally just like
I feel like
got
we just had a
distracted
side
by a cat.
conversation.
He got distracted by a cat. He's
No,
like,
no,
oh,
no.
look at the
Look,
kitty.
guys, what's that cat?
Put the cat on the mic.
He went deep. Oh, look at the kitty.
I just went.
That's
I
not
just
the
went.
whiskey, I swear to God. That was
I feel like it was like philosophy. I'm a 5-year-old. It's like, candy. I want to play Street Fighter.
How about you, Akshay? What
Man, I gotta say, I'm fearfully optimistic. I truly am. I want to be very positive about the future being very bright, but a piece of me is rather fearful. I mean, 2020 is a hell of a year for a lot of us. We've all experienced a little bit of loss and a little bit of gain, but a lot more on the loss side. And I think with 2021 right around the corner, we're all optimistic that it's a brand new turn, and who's to say that it is or it isn't? So I'm trying to stay as positive and as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as possible, but a piece of me is kind of like, yeah, I need to be a little bit safe and kind of plan for that long term without the problems. What are your takes, Keenan and Joe?
Um,
Keep
I'm-
drinking scotch.
Oh boy,
Scotch all the way. I'm hoping that I'll still be playing Cyberpunk 2077 because I'm really excited for that
You
game.
Can't wait! Can't wait! Is there a multiplayer for that? Do you know?
No, and as far as that, if there was multiplayer, man, I wouldn't get a girlfriend. It'd
You're
be
not
so
getting a
bad.
girlfriend either way.
Oh,
Keenan.
fuck you, Joe. No, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's single player, and CD Projekt Red mostly has single player games like with the Witcher series and whatnot. So here's hoping, crossing fingers. I know Ghost of Tsushima is single players.
that shit is way too complex with all the different.
You would think. I don't know.
I mean,
don't-
Ghost of
But
Tsushima
he's
ended up
surprised.
having a multiplayer mode. So you
Which
never-
I didn't know about that. Keenan just dropped that knowledge, and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, my son and I play it together. It's fucking great.
Yeah. So I mean I have high hopes for 2021. I have plans of my own that I'm hoping to like get out and release. I've been very procrastinative and
Damn, look
bad
at you. All right.
bad at actually doing some work to make myself shine because people see the potential in me, but I don't actually
Put the time
put
in.
forward in it yet because I'm too busy playing with Joe.
I doubt that.
No, it's mostly Final Fantasy, but not even that so much. So
"Whoops." That's
no,
not doing.
but yeah,
What's the-
I have high hopes for 2021. I'm actually kind of curious to see how everything goes down. My most concern is like the kind of secret shenanigans that Trump supporters and MAGA supporters like want to get away with since they can't be all out in the open now since they don't have a guy on the microphone just giving them instructions and shit. So I'm kind of curious to see how a lot of the secretive, messed up stuff will happen. But I do have some hopeful positivity towards the coming year. I know it won't change overnight, so who knows if Corona is still going till next year, December. That's going to be some really weird shit. I don't know how long the government is going to be willing to give me unemployment if I'm still looking for work. So we'll
what
see
are the
about that.
repercussions of that,
Yeah,
you
because
know?
they extended it this year, and then they were adding an extra 300 because of COVID and all that stuff. And it's like, I don't know how long you're going to keep up with this mentality, not just for me, but for
But I'm
a
here for it.
but a bunch of people who are also on unemployment collecting that stuff, and the ones who don't even want to look for work at all and just sit back and collect it, or not even using the money that they do collect towards, paying their bills or help, put something back in the community or something like that. So
Or here's a fun one. Their unemployment is giving them more, if not the same, that their job would, which is like also speaks
yeah,
super volume.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is
Yeah.
a lot of people. A lot of
Yeah.
people are
Fucking-
experiencing that. Right
Yeah,
now.
and my
I-
student
That
loans
was
are
one of
still
my biggest
going.
challenges hiring.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
There's
sure
no
there's
incentive to come to work because you can get more to do nothing.
That was one. That
or
was.
even
Yeah, go ahead.
like you get maybe $100 less, but then you have the peace of mind of, dude, I'm not gonna get COVID. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it
Like
absolutely is.
people like. I'm really, really kind of curious. Okay, so like Akshay, it sounds like you're hiring people, so you work with people on a certain capacity where you need like folks to be like, it's not you're like a self-made man like Keenan. Like Keenan, he's operating
I'm a
on a certain
self-made
level.
man.
I at this point, I'm on a. I myself, I've gone full-time student because I worked with kids, so it's like I basically the school system is all sorts of different levels. So I basically became unemployed. So I'm kind of curious to see Akshay's thing and especially Joe's opinion on it because he's in the entertainment industry, which is totally a different animal now. And what does that mean? Because there's so many things where it's like people got the drive-through concerts. I heard Metallica did one. Even fucking Oingo Boingo did one. Yeah, peace, Carl. I love you. But I know somebody in Oingo Boingo. That's what that meant.
Oh, shit.
Because, anyway, you do too, Cianan.
I do.
Carl is in Oingo Boingo. Anyway, we're moving on. Next to the storyline, Cianan.
Yeah.
Which I want to make that a thing so bad. But I'm kind of curious to see like certain industries what they've had to do to adapt. I have a buddy that has worked with Amazon as a delivery guy, and what he's had to deal with is just like so many different things, and it's like, damn, man. So I'm kind of curious, like what your guys, especially the entertainment industry. I'm not even quite sure what Akshay does, so I have no idea.
He works for the CIA.
No, so I work in a lot of
That's where
manufacturing operational management. So I actually recently just quit my job to focus on family. But prior to my last day being last night or the night before, I worked with a small team, but we basically manufactured makeshift styrofoam padding for boxes, primarily medical or food, things that needed thermal packaging, but from a very compostable standpoint. So we made a styrofoam that was completely compostable versus ending up in your landfill and taking 250 years to break down. Yeah. You could literally leave this in your garden and it would feed your plants.
Oh, wow.
I love this.
That's dope.
It was a beautiful company. I mean, what a phenomenal product. Unfortunately for me, I just wanted to spend more time with my family. But that's a separate subject altogether. We can have a separate podcast on that. In this case, in manufacturing, and this goes with me and also a lot of my friends who work in a variety of other facilities. With COVID, there's very little that you can do to avoid it in manufacturing.
There really
because you work with the same people every single day. You do your best to social distance, and there's going to come a junction where you're in a hallway with someone and you have to walk by them, like someone's going to have to bow out. You don't necessarily walk the opposite direction, just like the grocery store. You walk into each other and you cross. And so you can't maintain that 6 feet of social distancing all the time. It's just physically impossible. You go into an office with someone, and if I had a conversation with my boss, I'm standing by his door doing my best to keep 6 feet, but he's stuck in his office, breathing in everything that's trapped there. So with COVID, it's made it rather difficult because we don't know who's infected or who's not, especially with like up to 2 weeks to show symptoms. It's a little bit tough. And as much as we trust our associates to do a wonderful job of reporting these things, everybody needs money right now, and no one can really afford to be employed, but also be forced to shelter in place for 2 weeks and not be able to pay the bills. I mean, unfortunately, people are still being held accountable to make those payments.
And I guess to just get some perspective, like, working in manufacturing in your like close proximity, did you guys ever have any outbreaks that like you were?
No, fortunately, at my facility, we did not. However, at facilities that I have worked at that I'm no longer working at, they have had cases of certain individuals having
there you go.
And it's a shame because 90% of the facility will do everything within their ability to stay safe. However, it's that 10%, that may take a chance here and there, and they may not know that they're taking a chance. Suddenly, your kid comes back from college, and they're on an airplane, they're swapping air, and they bring it home, and now you're infected, and you infect your coworkers. it's hard. It's really, really tough because you do 100%, but you want to spend that time with family or a close friend. And I think that's what's kind of driving this, secondary occurrence that we're going through right now.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's and um just to be to be completely like unbiased for like any side in particular, the fact that Biden won the election today and people are actually going out on the streets in droves like today. People are going out there to celebrate, but that's I don't know.
That's
That's
not his
stupid.
message.
Yeah,
Yeah,
COVID
that's
is not in the
stupid. Like
election. Has nothing to do with it.
just to I mean I understand that people want to celebrate and rejoice that Donald Trump is gone as of now, as of right now. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks with anything that
Got
he
a
might
lot
be
of
fighting.
hours to
Yeah.
do damage, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But as of
Good and bad damage.
during a spike nonetheless.
yeah,
Right
but
now,
people going out
everything's
and
spiking.
celebrating
Yeah.
and doing all this stuff is counterproductive. It's so we don't know. Like, so to get back to Keenan's question on how we feel about the future, like, we don't know what's gonna happen. Like, just today is a great sign of what people can do without even thinking about it. People are just thinking they're out there celebrating and just being happy and rejoicing that Donald Trump is gone. But yeah, at the same time, you guys are gathering thousands of people gathering together with who potentially have COVID without even knowing,
Mm.
and this is basically another super spreader, quote unquote.
Yes.
Like
Possibly, yeah.
so we have to keep those kind of things in mind. We can't be hypocrites about things and say, "Oh, well, you guys are getting together. You guys are having these like celebration meetings, and you got and that the Trump administration is walking around with masks off, and then because Biden wins, you guys go out and you're celebrating, and a lot of people without masks. So it's like humanity is unpredictable.
And it's funny because how many times one of the anchors on CNN right away was like, I just want to point out that during a spike in all of this, I know that a lot of people are very excited about this, and it's like, whatever, to their credit. But at the same time, to your point, super spreader event, and we have been like, they started thinking about like how many times they started recording how many Donald Trump rallies and all these things, where it's like, because of those rallies, then we can actually see a direct correlation. So and so amount of people from that rally actually started getting COVID because, it's, we're not 100% sure on all of this stuff. And it sucks to know that even our expert, panel or whoever, that might be in charge, they still, to this day, they have a grasp on certain things, but it's like, do we 100% understand the virus and all this stuff? It's like, no. Like, if we did, then that shit we have a vaccine. We would understand it.
Exactly. It's an
You know?
unpredictable vaccine. I mean, not vaccine. It's an unpredictable disease for an unpredictable people. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's gonna be
And
the future's gonna be incredibly interesting. At least next year, for sure. I mean, and
Absolutely.
to go to address what you had said, Andrew, about like the entertainment industry. A
oh,
lot
I'm
of the
very curious because I know some people that are also in the entertainment
yeah,
industry,
a
and
lot
it's
a
a
lot of us aren't
fucking
working.
nightmare.
A lot of us aren't working. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be working because I'm a salary employee, so regardless of anything, I'm still and for those salary employees, some of them did have to take a pay cut. Luckily, I didn't have to take a pay cut. Um, but other people in this industry are independent contractors that only get hired on a per job basis. So if they're not working consistently once, twice, three times a month, they're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened to a lot of these people. I have a lot of friends in the industry who haven't worked in 9 months. Um, and it's definitely hurting them. Uh, and for a lot of those people, they don't have any proof of employment per se, so it's harder to get the government assistance. it's harder to get that because it's not like they're working consistently, and a lot of times some of them aren't working like I don't want to say legally, but they're independent contractors, so they don't have to report specific things that they do. Sometimes they might get a cash payout, so they won't have proof for a job they did for 6 months. Uh, Under the table, they won't have proof of that work that they did. So it's very interesting, um, and it's very scary what the future looks like for at least the live events industry. Television is some of television is working. Film and television are working. They are in the studios. They have a lot of protocols. They have a lot of things that they have to do. Screenings every other day, and if you're on a production, you're doing a COVID screening every other day. I just did the Latin billboards, and literally every other day I was taking a COVID test through the nose. So I'm like,
Oh,
okay, it's whatever
oh.
now. Now it
I'm
doesn't even
gonna
matter.
ask you
Like,
about that.
yeah, now the nose screening is like whatever to me now. But the first couple of days, I was like, oh god, squirming, and if I'm being tortured, which I definitely wasn't being tortured, but it's
Some next
definitely-
level.
yeah, it's crazy, like the amount of safety measures they've taken as far as film and television, and the fact that our government might not feel that live events can do the same is pretty crazy because it's still pretty much the same industry. So if you're gonna allow film and television to get back to work, I think the live events industry takes even more caution than film and television because we're dealing with actual people on a daily basis. Like we're not just talking about talent, because talent is technically still a worker. So you have the production team and you have the talent, and they're both doing their job. As far as live events is concerned, that's production and the actual public. And we've been doing this for years. We've been doing this for decades. So I think the live events industry is pretty familiar with how to take care and how to control the people. I've been to expos and I've been to conferences where all we do is talk about the safety of the people. Like so, prior to COVID, I was in Philadelphia. I went to this conference. It's a safety summit, and basically all we do is talk about how we can keep the public safe at our events. So you mean to tell me that we wouldn't be able to do that now? Like I think if anything, we have a little more experience than a lot of other industries uh, on how to take care of the public at one of our events. So it's kind of weird that we would be the last ones to get back to work when we're the ones who take. We literally have OSHA, we literally have ESTA. There are a lot of different government and private committees that all they do is think about the safety of people in this industry. So it's crazy, and so I'm just kind of like saddened because next year, although a lot of like festivals and these events like Coachella and EDC and all those, they want to get back to doing their thing, but it's very unlikely because people are being
viable?
overly caught. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, can you make a profit off of that? Or are you just trying to market, the face?
And it's also kind of weird to me that film and television can be back, but theaters still have to stay closed. That's like, that's fucking weird.
Which is very, very interesting because then it's like, I before I jump into that, I wasn't even going to ask, like, because you guys are in that area of, like, talking about what you see for the future, like Akshay and Joe, do you see, like, what would you say for the future? Is it bleak? Is it?
It's not to say that it's going to be bleak because
something-
people need
Say
entertainment.
bleak.
I think
Yeah.
people need entertainment. People need manufacturing. People need things to
Absolutely.
be actually made.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that these industries are going to be gone and they're going to completely disappear, but it's going to take some time. I think it's going to take
Yes.
some time for both industries to get back to where they used to be, especially if people aren't able to control themselves a little more. And I think maybe that's something that we want to see now that this new administration is going to come in. Maybe there is a little more control as far as telling helping guide people in the direction of how to stay a little safer, as opposed to saying
Yes.
this is ridiculous, this isn't even a serious thing. Like, maybe now we do kind of buckle up and say, hey guys, let's kind of hunker down a little bit, make sure that we're taking care of each other a little more. That way we can get back to normal a little faster. So who's to say that it is that isn't what's going to happen, but it's all going to take some time, and it's not going to happen. Like, I'm not optimistic that our industries in particular are going to get back to normal next year.
No, it's not going to happen next year. It's definitely going to take a little bit longer because supply and demand has changed dramatically. Industry need has changed dramatically. Originally,
sure.
I worked in health, and health has changed a lot. Right now, healthcare providers are at a severe risk. With that, medical device manufacturing has changed tremendously. You have COVID testing kits, which are being produced like no tomorrow, but you have orthotics, braces, dentures. Those items are not being produced as much, per se, because that hands-on approach is not quite there anymore.
Right.
Moving into my other job, like I worked in food manufacturing. In food manufacturing, that skyrocketed because now people are trapped at home. What are they going to do? They're going to eat more, So instead of having like 3 meals, you're going to have 4 or 5 meals. Why? To kill time.
Jeez,
so
tell me
food
about
manufacturing has gone up a little bit in all fields, whether it's bread, which I worked in, milk, cheese, you name it. But now moving into my other industry, which was auto manufacturing, that went down, right? Orders went down because how many people are driving? You don't need to replace your cars often because you're not using it as much. So demand is down. People are not buying cars. Why? Because they're not leaving the house.
Fucking test driving is not the window for some people. They're just like, fuck that, I don't want to do that shit.
I'm not going to go to a dealership. So dealerships are now laying folks off, So, like, everything is cyclical. Man. But I worked most recently in packaging, and packaging has gone up. Why? Because people don't want to leave home, and they need, like, stuff delivered, especially thermal packaging. If you need medicine, food, dog food, you name it, like if it needs thermal insulation, that needs to be sent to your residence. That's not going to be sent anywhere else. You're not going to go to the store. You're going to avoid people. So with that, manufacturing has changed tremendously.
Yeah.
There's definitely been a lot of growth in certain fields, which were diminishing. But now, with the future, who knows? COVID is just a taste of one strain. We are so susceptible to so many different attacks that for me, we've done everything in our ability to adapt to new scenarios with technology, but eventually evolution needs to take over, and we're hurting ourselves by not allowing that.
And I think that really speaks volumes to the how fragile everything really is, and that there's so many people that are just like, it's expected. Like, even just you talking about, I remember just because I would get one of those produce boxes, right? And they would send, like, if anything needed to be cold, they would send a cold pack with it.
Right.
And you're looking at the cold pack and you're like,
like when you Instacart or something.
I could fucking recycle the cardboard, but that cold pack, what is that going to do on an environmental level?
That's
and it's like
trash, landfill, plastic bagging.
Next
garbage.
level, because like what kind of things go into and how does that biodegrade? And that could be a whole nother field of like, it's opening so many things, but it's just like the ecosystem of humans. Like even like I think a lot more people are starting to see that it's like, look, what we're doing with manufacturing, how that turns into what is happening to the climate. And it's like, some people are like, yeah, the climate's no big deal. And you see people that are in the field that are at a glacier fucking melting as they're sitting there going like, this is supposed to happen every like 100 years. it's happening every 5 minutes.
5 years. Oh, yeah.
No, it's like minutes. It's like we're fucking going to have real life Kevin Costner Merman coming out of here. It's Waterworld for reals. If we fucking and people are just like, I mean, but I could keep squeezing out some more money out of this situation. And it's like, no, like the fragile state of, and there's so much that we can learn from each other on a cultural like level too. Is there's so many things where it's just like so many people just they want to be right all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, we are.
I
the
sit
most
next to him
invasive
every
species.
Sunday.
Every Sunday,
Every Sunday, I sit next to somebody who thinks he's always right.
and you're like, Joe.
Is it Joe?
Joe.
I won't say. I
Joe.
won't name
Or-
names,
or
but it
is
starts with a
football?
J.
Is it a football thing? I'm like every Sunday. I'm like I'm trying to follow the
Oh.
breadcrumbs.
I think that was
No.
3 votes for Joe.
3 votes for Joe.
But
I am
it's
the
one of those
imposter.
things-
He's a
Joe,
popular
you
vote.
just got elected.
But here's the thing: is that okay? So Joe is your friend,
Is
and
he?
even if you're like, well, but here's the thing: is that even if Joe is your friend, right?
Even
And, like if it's one of those things, it's like don't give up on like
Joe.
have discussions with Joe about stuff. I'm
Wait,
sure
have
that
what?
There might be
Which we do.
discussions. No, jerk
Jerk-
them off.
jerk-
I'm saying
Double Dutch
have
rudder.
discussions with people, and you might disagree, and you
Whoa.
might have.
Joe.
I feel like this is turning into a very loaded. She's like, wait, are you on Joe's side? And I'm like, whoa.
I know it
what?
sounds like you're all against me per usual.
No,
per episode.
No, what I'm
God.
saying,
Fuck you,
is
Joe.
that this is almost like one of those things where it's just like, one of the hardest things, like, you know, I didn't work as a teacher, but I worked in education, and I saw some fucking crazy ass shit that would happen, even to the point where like somebody, like a little kid, asked me because I was trying to help him out, said like, "Why are you in this profession?" And it was like, dude, I am so trying not to rage so hard on you, child. And you have to be that person to just be like, okay, let me find some sort of logic.
Yeah,
Why
it's
he said that.
it is.
And
it is like-
and you transition to that voice when you're like, Joe,
Listen, you little shit.
tell you.
Yeah, talking to
And-
Joe on serious
or
topics
even
like
that,
talking
or
to a
even
5-year-old.
that, where you're like, listen, little shit. Like my dad would be one of those people where my friends were so fearful when he had, because they've seen him rage, but it was next level when he just says, "I want you to have your friends go and get their backpacks. We're gonna have a discussion." My
Wow.
friends were like, "We're never gonna see you. You're
I
dead."
I don't
And
think
it's
I've
like
ever
that-
experienced that. I guess it's a young
That
thing.
level.
Yeah.
That level of no, like when you get that angry and you somehow compose yourself, and it's like that's what we're kind of dealing with right now, is that there's so much fucking, you name it,
you're
racism,
right.
fucking circumstantial shit. I mean, just even think of like if you were a person that was like, I just bought a house and I have all this money that needs to go into the house, and then COVID hits and you don't have a job.
Jeez.
It's like, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, something really hates you or something like that. Like, everybody has their own hardships during this moment, and it might be my minuscule hardships compared to like Joe's industry hardships, or Akshay like being like, I'm in the industry of manufacturing, and it's like it's getting batshit crazy. There's so many different levels, and it's like everybody has hardships, man. Come on.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
you cannot predict or like, let's have a discussion versus like, oh yeah, I had an experience just like it. It's like, no, that's bullshit. Do not do that. Listen to the people. If you say I had an experience, that's the shit that feeds into stuff like racism or just like classism or all these things where it's like, no, listen to these people and see where it goes and learn from it and talk to them about it versus just like, I want to get my input in there. And I know I'm an asshole for like being a person that's talking about that right now. And being like, right now, I'm like, I'm saying this, like, and
Well,
no one's talking right now.
We
No,
have
dude,
to listen to the white man.
This no.
I agree with you.
But you're absolutely
Empathy
right.
is bliss.
It really is.
But like, and this is coming from like a person that should be, I could be one of those shell shock. For viewers, I'm a white male
Oh, what?
guy. So it's like
I would have never known.
No.
Man.
Are you
now everybody's
serious?
like, oh, everything you just said.
The
Now we understand what
99 cents talking for all of us.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things, but it's just like, no, like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, like, I even have moments where even Keenan and I just like shake our heads and we're just like, white people. And that's the level that it gets to, because it's just like,
That's me on a daily basis.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm a fucking white male. What does that mean to me? And it's like, no, that's how I feel. That there's just a certain mentality where it's just like, the only way I can quickly classify that is I shake my head and just say white people. And it's like, that's fucking crazy, right? Like, you degraded yourself. And it's like, sometimes you gotta do that shit, because it's like, I don't even know how to gauge it.
Fucking white people.
And
with
it's
that,
just, yeah, I mean,
We're
I
gonna.
think it's amazing that you look at it that way, because I think that's a very
We're not.
small demographic.
of people who actually
I
think that
honestly
way.
respect that.
Him and John are
think
the
that
only
way.
two
I
white
think
people
that's
I know.
really, really nice. It's encouraging,
I mean,
being
I'm
a
not gonna
minority,
lie.
that's
I'm
very,
not.
very encouraging.
I'm not gonna lie. I do that as well sometimes, where I'll be like, Mexicans. Like something will be like said. No, like something will be said or done in the Latino community, well, specifically the Mexican community. Like I'll hear something on the news that happened in Mexico or some injustice or something, and I'd be like, wow, that. And I'm not even surprised sometimes at some of those things. It's crazy to think how similar a conservative Mexican is to a conservative American. And when I say American, a conservative American, I'm no, not just white people, but conservative Americans.
Okay.
Because you'll find it in black, brown, Asian, white. You'll find there are it's
what's a conservative American?
Like about religion and about specific things like abortion and things like that. It's like you'd be surprised, and well, some people shouldn't be surprised that some in the Latino community would actually side more on the side of like a Christian conservative.
I was gonna say because of religion.
Yeah, because of religion.
Yeah.
So so again, I'm also one of those guys that'll be something like, wow, my people. Wow, those are my people.
It's 100% everywhere.
And you have to be honest about it. You have to be honest.
Yeah. And I fucking hate these people that like either the people that they're like, oh, I have so much guilt, or the people that where they turn into like somebody that says I'm not racist, and it's like, motherfucker, that's impossible. At this point, that's fucking impossible. Mm-hmm. Like, I could be somebody that just made a statement that just made somebody of a person of color just go, that's really reassuring that you just said that. And I'm like, yeah, but guess what? I am also a fucking racist, like, to a level. Like, I'm
like
sorry.
that as a title, but I'm also a fucking racist.
But guess what? I'm also a fucking racist.
But it's just like, even like Joe, Keenan, Akshay, you're all fucking racist, unfortunately, just based off of this some sort of like a level of just like the system has unfortunately told you. And it's like one of those things where it's just like, well, why the fuck should I say that this person's lesser than me? Who told me that?
Wow.
Like that's a ... moment where it's like, right? You're thinking about it where you're just like, wait.
Kind of like thrown off a bit, like, wait, what?
And
like
it
a double
has nothing,
take.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with me being a white person. It has nothing to do with, like, this is great because we have 4 different, like, people of different races at this point. Yeah, right?
Different ethnicities. It's nice.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just like, if you really think about it, there's a portion of the culture that you were brought up with and it's sad to say that some of it comes from your family, some of it comes from your community, some of it comes from your state, some of it comes from your country, some of it comes from the world. And it's just like, that is something that was man-made. Racism is not a nature thing. You do not see fucking birds doing this shit, reptiles doing this shit, fish doing this shit. They're like, no, I can eat your fucking ass. That's awesome. I'm eating you. Fucking, you're dead. I got sustenance. And then people are like, I don't want to deal with that big fucking thing. What is that called? A shark? Yeah, fuck that. I'm not dealing with that shit anymore. And it's like, there you go. But instead, we have like this next level thing where it's like there's a foothold of power involved in it. Yeah. And it's like, that's the biggest thing. And when you really think about it, it's somebody found that foothold and said, you know what? And it goes, unfortunately, religion, politics, every single level of anybody in power. And all those things could be great things. But anybody that ever thought a selfish thought gets that foothold, and it's like, oh, let's build a fucking foundation of that. And it's like, oh, that's next level.
Fucking A, man. Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. Not as far as I'm concerned. And with that, we have reached the soapbox portion. Go ahead, Akshay.
Go ahead, start us off.
No, you were gonna
soapbox time.
I almost disagree with the level of like, you know, potential racism, because
I'm glad. Yeah, tell me some shit. Like, I love discussion, and I love like.
I learned a long time ago, you know, working with teams and being a team player, that you can't look at a person's skin tone, you can't look at a person's background. You have to look at a person for their core values. And I feel like I wouldn't ever say that I'm a racist in one way, shape, or form, or would like to be labeled as a racist at all, because for me, I've worked with everybody, and I appreciate what every single person has brought to the table, even if I don't agree with what they did, and I've had to have conversations with them about what they did. I still look at them for what they bring to the table, and I respect them for it. So for me, I don't know, like, I could never ever say that, yeah, I'm a racist, and I can't own that title.
I don't.
Well, racist. So when I say like racist, it's like one of those things where I've even had a conversation with Cianan about, like, if you see somebody get robbed by like a black man, comes out of the cuts, pulls out a blade, and says, "Give me your money," and then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I should watch out for black people because they will steal. They will steal my money, and then all of a sudden, like, then you start talking to actual. Like actual black people, and you start going, well, that was the one instance, but there are some people where that's the only instance they got, you know, and it's
unfortunately. And some people only have that limitation, but I can't say that's me. I can't speak for that for me. I had the pleasure of living with Cianan, right?
But have you ever? But have you ever had a moment where you're like, well, yeah, that's pretty Indian, you know? Have you never had a moment where you were like, yeah, that's pretty Indian? Or Indian
I've gone, you know, I found myself saying, okay, I can understand that someone from the mainland would say something the way that they said it, sure. Yeah. But I wouldn't ever call that racist. I would say that would be cultural.
But it turns into...
Like, I wouldn't say that would be me slandering their name by any means. I would never do that. That's where racism comes into play, where I go, wow, that person.
You're just a fucking saint, aren't you? You're just a fucking saint, aren't you, Akshay?
That's a different culture, right? And I respect that culture. As long as they're not doing anything violent or hurting other people in any way, shape, or form, that's a different culture.
But that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that there's also levels of it. Like, my level of racism, not saying I'm a saint or anything like that. I am the man, apparently. So, you know, all crosshair facts. Man. But at the same time, it's like there's like almost like a lie level of like racism. You know, you might not think that it means any harm, and you don't mean any, but that still equates to, it still equates to like a little bit of racism, and it's one of those things that's built into us. Not like saying like I'm out there like saying
profiling
like,
somebody because of
yeah, I'm not profiling
Right.
people, and I like if I get to the point where I might get to profiling, it's like, whoa, what the fuck is happening in my head? And like I have a moment of thinking about it, kind of thing. And like actually, but like at the same time,
yeah.
like at the same time, like it's one of those things where it's even like from a religious standpoint, like certain things that are just integrated into you, that it's just like it's been so fucking hammered in that it's like looking at like how my parents, like back generation, where it's like you can't fault 100% people for being like my family might say some crazy ass racist shit.
Oh, I've been there too.
And they might say it in a joking way, and they don't mean it in malice. Like my parents have no qualms with people of color in a lot of different ways, but they might say something, and you're just like that's even like.
So here's the question for you: if you've recognized that someone in your family has said something that would be like an off-color topic, have you taken a stance and said, "Hey, look, that's not acceptable"? Or have you taken a back seat and said, you are who you are. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm just going to walk away.
Or we join in.
Here's the thing.
Keenan.
Yeah, I'm a full-blown racist.
It turns into it's a situational thing, because at those moments, it's really, really that gray area where it's like same thing, where it's like I'm a person that's saying like I might be telling white lie quote versions of racism, but it's like that level of it is it's still racism in a degree, and that's a part of the problem on certain regards. I'm not saying like I'm fucking crying about this because there's deeper levels of this where people are actually malicious and all this stuff.
Oh, for sure.
There's moments where you can actually have a teaching moment. Like I think there's a lot of things that that can be said. Like if like say for example, if alcohol is involved, there is no alcohol in a classroom, right? For a particular reason, because they're younger. But if you have older people and you were having a discussion and you were trying to teach people, that might not be the best time to say, your thought process might need to change a little, because then that person might go, you don't know who the fuck I am, and they're fucking throwing bows, and you're like, I thought we were like cool, like you're like my best friend. All of a sudden, Keenan's fucking haymaker in my ass, all this shit. Like it's like you don't know where it goes with that. So I feel like there's times and places where it's like you have to go, okay, like if something super super racist comes up, and even if somebody says something super racist that's like maliceful, like you don't just go out and just say that's fucked up, because there's more in the situation. Like if it's a person that you don't know, like you might have to be equipped, ready to go in a fight. But if you know that person, and you're like, there's circumstances with this, and somebody felt comfortable making a racist comment, then it's like, okay, what is actually going to be optimal in this situation? And
I'll fuck him up.
Oh, Joe.
But like here's the thing.
He'll go like full on, like just swinging arms.
He will.
Like, hey, what did you say about Mexican people?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a lost teaching moment, right? Like if all of a sudden you say something,
I'm teaching that motherfucker a lesson for sure.
Exactly. Fucking whale on them, then they're like fucking Mexicans, man. They're fucking violent as shit, and that's forever. And it's like,
boy,
oh my god, like that's a terrible
One of them was.
Oh my god.
And it's
maybe one.
And that's as a person, as an outpost, like if like say the three of us saw Joe just throw down with somebody that was incredibly racist, that like we just saw that, we're just like fucking like do we go and help Joe at this point?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. I would jump in if Joe was in a fisticuff situation with a white supremacist. I would jump in there in a moment and help him out.
You put it to the next level. You're like a white supremacist. It's just like, no, if somebody makes a racist comment, like we're not talking about Joe is having a casual conversation with a white hooded dude.
That's what it would take, right? That's what it would take. It would take someone that would be
blatantly
really
racist and say, "Hey, that fucking
Joe
Mexican needs to go." Yeah. If
it
somebody was like, "Yo, that fucking Mexican
person.
needs to go back to his country," you better believe I'm gonna swing
Oh,
on that
God.
motherfucker
Yeah.
And if they
so
did it to
fast.
Joe's son, forget it.
Woo.
Oh yeah,
Forget
they
it.
can't
Joe's
touch
son,
Joe's son.
That's it. And I would jump in there too. And I'm sure Keenan would too. And I'm
But
sure
that's-
you would be there to represent as well. Because again, it's one of those things where it's although we tolerate it to a certain extent, it's never been acceptable. And
No,
To be
no,
blatantly
it's never been
racist.
allowed in like the phylum of Animalia, right? Where dogs don't witness it, cats don't witness it, but yet they still have internal feuds. We take it to the next level, and it's wrong on so many different accords. And regardless of that, we gotta start somewhere where we start to make it right.
And I will say that here's the thing. If it came down to it, somebody says something super fucking racist and Joe starts throwing bows at somebody, Joe's not in the wrong. Like, that's obviously, like, that's super fucked up, and I understand that that's fucked up. It's one of those things where it's like, I think, how do you be a bigger person? It's super unfortunate to get to that level where it's like, fuck, this person is just like so next level. I've had moments where you're sitting there and you're just rubbing your temples, just being like, okay, the headache is coming on, but what do I say that's logical? And so it's neutral, and they might take something away from it. And you say something, and they fucking bash it, and you're just like,
I think at that point,
To a point that could almost be tolerating it.
yeah,
right? Where,
yeah.
you have to be careful with that. I get that it's a teaching moment, but you can't take a passive approach. Sometimes you have to
So that's
build that necessary.
That's why I say that it's like, it's totally fine if Joe is just like, and it's time to throw bows, because it's just like, at that level, it's just like, you were clearly, it's just like, and it sucks, because it's like, we should never ever get to that level. Like,
No, violence should never get to that. But I could understand jumping in there to support Joe's viability if it came to that, where it was like all bad. And I've seen it, like it can get all bad.
Yeah,
Like,
it really
having lived in the Bay Area, there's a big cultural divide. You go into Oakland, there's a massive cultural divide.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
And
Even
these kids,
even
and
between
you're
people
maybe
of
a
color.
neutral party per se that's just minding their own business, you will see a fight and you'll question that fight, and you'll go out there and you'll do your best to kind of break it up, or you'll make sure other people don't join in out of malice or just because they're aggressors, and you do your best to kind of uphold the peace as an outstanding citizen, right?
Yeah.
I think that's all of our responsibilities, regardless of our physical capabilities. We all have the right to protect everybody.
But I think in the moment, so my hesitation of actually asking that, it's like, I'm not saying I'm not going to go in and help out Joe, because I'm cool with Joe, and he's cool with.
I would hope so, because he's like right there.
But in one of those moments, it's like, in that split second, it's like, it's not a heartbeat thing for me, especially as a person that's like, shit, was there an educating moment? And it's like, at that moment while I'm thinking about it, I might be punching somebody's face in and being like, whoa, never mind, that's already happening. Like, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, there's so much, like...
I'm hoping you're not punching people and you're more restraining them till they cool off. That's me going in. I'm pulling people off of Joe, or I'm like, getting a couple of folks in a full Nelson, just trying to stop the fight.
Hey, pal, cut it out.
I'm not trying to get in there. I'm not throwing blows, I'm the person that's getting in there, breaking it up, and doing the non-violent protest. We're going to have a sit-in.
Oh no, I'm kicking people's faces in. I'm hitting dicks.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, that's the next level. Is he wearing a hood?
I think that's the point that Joe would lose it if someone of that certain caliber, with that certain ideal, would take him, because Joe is one of those people that he's handled a lot of sticky situations. His job title says it all. He's been put on the worst types of scenarios that you can name when it comes to confrontation.
Absolutely.
And he's handled it exceptionally well. And I'm sure, like, if you listen to the episodes, how he gets in people's faces.
Oh, yeah.
It's a non-violent type of method of breaking fights.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. I love hearing it because he's the people we need.
Yeah, and there are ways of just de-escalating certain situations where it's like, yeah, you're fucking putting them in a chokehold essentially, and it's like, whoa, when you say chokehold, that's like so many things right now, and like
It really
it's
is.
like
It
there
really
are
is.
certain things where it's like you can actually put
But a
somebody.
chokehold does not mean that you're choking them out, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Basically,
right.
like, you're
Right.
just holding them in a place where they can't do any more bodily harm to anyone.
Or
That's
you
it. You're not
somehow
trying to like put them to sleep and then go
See,
for the next person.
Yeah,
That's
or you put them in a bodily mechanically, you cannot do anymore.
yeah, it's just cool
Like, kind of
down.
thing.
We're in timeout together. You
Yeah,
know, we're just
exactly.
gonna be in timeout together. It's me and you. We're just gonna calm down.
And I feel, I
That's
guess,
what we can-
because I know you guys were trying to end the show, so
Oh no,
I'll
we're
try to-
fine.
I'll-
I'm absolutely fine.
I mean, we
This is
just
good.
talked about it. Like, this is really good. I like this, but
I
like,
love
it
it.
depends. Like, it's one of those things that it's just like it's definitely one of those like you can't fault anybody at this point. Keenan's dying apparently, but you can't like I was saying, like if Joe goes out and he goes full force violence, you know, I'm not gonna think any less of Joe because there's so many levels where it's just like shit, man. Like how many times has this guy said something super negative to you? Like there's a breaking point for everybody.
Right.
Everybody.
You know, and it's the context of the situation, and then all on top of it, you got to read the room. Like, just like if we were drinking alcohol, it's not like, you know, I'm going to tell you about, you know, you should be more cognizant of racism. And the person's going to sit there and they might not even be fucking buzzed. And they're sitting there going like, who the fuck is this person? And then beat the shit out of you just on principle that they thought that this was a moment to teach them something. So
You know, I feel if a person is blatantly racist continuously, then they blatantly need to get fucked up.
and that's if somebody is
That's
blatantly racist, there is a lot of shit. That's like, wait, you're racist. You were part of it. Like,
Yeah.
how far does this hatred go? Like,
It goes.
It's one thing when,
community
yeah, if you say something
thrive
that
off of it.
you say off color shit, that's one thing, and it's like that's just built in, and you can have a teaching fucking moment. But like, if you got somebody where it's like, I fucking hate black people, and you're like, I'm just gonna walk away because I'm not quite sure how to handle this, and I am also calling the police at the same time. Like, what the fuck? Like, just openly saying something like that, it's like
I'm fighting.
you have
I'm
to
fighting.
do something.
I'm definitely fighting.
He's fighting with
Yeah.
fighting.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, it's spooky. That's like, and then like, what does that even mean? Like, with like, if you fought that person, then all of a sudden it's just like, wait, this whole entire area that we're in, and then all of a sudden this like white supremacist movement comes against you, and you're like, oh my god, like, where are we? And it's like, yeah, like we hate, like, and it's like, oh my god, what? It's like, it's spooky how much hatred is with people, and they're open about it now.
no, you're
Just
right.
based off of who was in office and how
Yes.
scary that motherfucker was.
It's
with his
crazy.
message.
Cool.
And being
The
like,
fact that he supported the group
yeah!
Yes, yes.
during
And he's
a
a
debate
fucking leader
Oh,
type
God.
person.
is rather insane, but
Yeah.
it kind of shows the state of our nation. And if
Yeah. It
really
you follow
does.
the red states, you presume that they identify with that rhetoric, and that could be a little scary to
That
travel
could be
to.
dangerous as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Whew,
And-
gentlemen, this has been phenomenal.
You guys.
If I was gonna say anything, I hate everybody.
Okay.
Is that your soapbox? That's
Yeah,
all
we
your
still got
And
some
with
left
that-
over.
God.
Oh, but
We've come, huh?
sign off. Do you know the sign off? I don't think we've done this. You guys are familiar with
Well,
the
we're
sign
not
off
there yet.
afterwards.
Yeah,
You'll
they're
talk about
familiar
it.
with it. We
Okay.
discussed it.
I've done
And with
one.
that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the soapbox portion of our podcast.
Yes, we have.
It took some time, but you know what?
If you're
That
still
time
with
was
us,
filled phenomenally.
if you're still
I mean,
here at
how
the
many
end of the show,
soapboxes have you already had at this point?
right now the whole episode.
So for those of you unfamiliar with the soapbox portion, it is the moment where we get each guest and host gets an opportunity to speak on whatever they want to speak on, whether it's shouting someone out, venting about something, promoting anything, or just overall shooting hate. That's great too, but not. I don't know. It's weird.
Damn.
It's your soapbox.
It's your soapbox. You'll get an you'll get an unspecified amount of time, however long you want to take, to speak on whatever it is you want to speak on. Traditionally, when we have guests on, we'll let the guests go first. Yeah, huh?
I said here.
Here. We're gonna let Andrew go first, followed by Akshay. Keenan will go, and then I'll close it out. So, without further ado, Andrew, give us your soapbox.
All right, so my soapbox. Okay, no, for reals. So my take from damn. What?
Oh no, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, Andrew. My bad. Wait, sorry. No.
Disregard that.
No.
Okay, here we go.
Me too.
Andrew, give us your soapbox.
What that Jeopardy? So, what I was gonna say is that if anything, one of the big things that I'm don't be afraid to be wrong, right? One of the biggest problems that I have with this country is this emphasis on being wrong is a terrible, terrible thing. And I think it speaks volumes because, from an educational standpoint, when you were wrong, that means that you're actually actively going for knowledge and actually learning. And I think this emphasis of being wrong is like, you can't be wrong, blah, blah, blah. That makes it so you've stunted the growth of people learning. And in a lot of different ways, the country as a whole, I think, has a problem with just education in general. And it's one of those things where it's just like, education, knowledge, all these things are only there to help jettison society, culture, everything forward. There's nothing there that is like, I don't know how they thought that. And saying they is kind of fucked up too. I shouldn't say they, and I shouldn't generalize that it's just the country. But there are a lot of people that almost fear knowledge for some sort of reason. And it's kind of disheartening to people that actually want to help in a lot of different ways when it comes to opportunity and things like that. Because if you are knowledgeable about a vast majority of things, that you have more opportunity. You can see an outside perspective when it comes to culture and industry and all these different aspects. If you are knowledgeable, if you learn about certain things, don't fear asking questions. There's like that, even as adults, we have this anxiety of like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. And you have no fucking idea. Don't do that. Don't feel afraid to have that moment of like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because then that person might come out of the cuts and be like, here's a fucking wide variety of something that you don't even know about, and they're happy to share with you. Have those, like, don't fucking just think that you have it all when it comes to knowledge. Like, don't be scared about what you can ask somebody, and don't feel scared about asking a fucking stupid question, because there's so many times where that stupid question is what fucking in a room of 50, 35 people are asking the same question in their mind, but don't have the guts to fucking actually ask that question. And instead they just go on and fucking those 35 people fail at said task, you know? And yeah, I feel like there's an emphasis, like I felt really out of all of this stuff that where it was really draining watching CNN and all these things, you know, drone on about like this is the information that we have, and it was so much time that I personally put into watching while I was doing daily tasks. It wasn't just like fucking watching my beard grow while I'm watching CNN, but you know, there was very, very little information that was being put out at the same time. And it's like, it's a process, you know, I respect it, and that's democracy and stuff like that. But there's like, I ended up watching like a cooking show where it was one of those things where the cook went out and saw an outside perspective, and just the awe in their eyes about something that was as simple as just like, how many products of salt do you make in Japan? And it was like 3,000 different levels of salt. And they were like, whoa. And as a chef, they're like, oh, the possibilities. And they're picking out these subtleties. It's like, have that like wide eye approach to life. Don't be scared about that kind of shit, you know? So I'll cut it there because you guys are chuckle masters over there. Like, I don't know.
Hey, that is phenomenal. Look at that. I think that was our longest soapbox.
Oh my god, Andrew, we're gonna have to have a little talk.
I think it was like almost 10 minutes.
Oh fuck, dude! You guys gotta be like, okay,
No, that's what the soapbox is about.
That's what the soapbox is,
That's
bud.
what Scotch is.
And it was
Is the
phenomenal.
problem.
Can we have it over here a second so they can hear me, bitch?
Akshay, give us your soapbox.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
So,
sorry, everybody.
no, it's all good. I love it.
I love you.
And
I
I
wanna
love you.
lead with what I heard a Swami say on a TED Talk or an interview. He said, "Look at your nose. Does your nose smell your mouth all the time? If you don't brush your teeth for a couple days, would it be able to tell that your breath isn't that fresh? No, probably not. It's used to it. It doesn't smell it, but yet it's right there and it's responsible for all of your sensation, all of your scent. However, everybody in the room will know that you did not brush your teeth for several days. And with that, it's probably best to do your self-reflection, not just with what you have in front of you, but self-reflect with your peers frequently and get that constructive criticism that you need to better yourself. And I think that is so important, is to find a group of people where you can have those heart-to-hearts with, whether it's coworkers that will be honest with you about the decisions you made, or friends that are honest with you about the way you may handle a certain situation, or even family. Just finding the people that will help you grow to become the best version of yourself without doing harm to others. I think that's very, very important. And I just wanted to share that with everyone, because I think all too often it's very easy to throw that stone at a glass house. And I think all too often it's very easy to judge someone else. And I think maybe it's time for a little bit more self-reflection when we have a little bit more time on our hands to do the right thing and maybe become a better person along the way. And that's my soapbox. I hope that helps all of the listeners out there.
It's an absolute honor
Stop being
to know
a gentleman,
you.
Akshay.
It's an absolute honor to know you, Akshay.
Can we stop?
You guys.
We've had the fucking epic speaker of all time, Andrew, just grace us. We've had the saint, Akshay. Like, episode 98 of the None of Our Business podcast has got to be one for the books.
Yeah.
Keenan, hit us with your
I thought you were
soapbox.
going to say some shit about me. All right. Never mind. I love you, Joe.
He's
No,
like,
no, I
I know
don't.
what you're friends with Andrew.
No, thank you to all the listeners out there. Thank you, Akshay and Joe. No, you're Joe. Akshay and Andrew, for being on the show. Thank you, Joe, for letting me come here to your house and host the podcast with you, even though I think you're a piece of shit. But thank you anyway. I want to say I want to have this as an open discussion, but because it's a little personal. But I figured I just take a quick minute on my soapbox to say that my roommate almost burned my house down a couple days ago, and funny enough, it's not the worst that I have to rant about on this show, but it was some crazy shit, and I want to talk about it. But I think I'll save that for another episode as an open discussion about what to do when you have like household etiquette and just interaction between roommates and communication and stuff like that. But I definitely did want to get it off my chest because it definitely has been molding in my brain about the frustrations I do have that I haven't been on this show complaining about. I usually would in the beginning, but it didn't for a while until this recent incident happened, where apparently no blame has been taken. So super sucks, but yeah, I just want to say it's 2020 is weird and things get weird, but hopefully, like I am trying to do with my own personal household situations, to get through it somehow or some way, which is why I'm smoking and drinking right now with Joe, doing a lovely podcast with Andrew and Akshay. Also, last but not least, this started not a tradition, but something actually progressed that has me going on a good positive note for our show. The group known as Dick Talking Mimosas, that also is a podcast of someone I know, has been doing really, really well. They have a really good show, and they've been calling out our show on their episodes, which is really awesome, and continuously too. And I've been trying to get on other people's podcasts, and I actually feel like a snowball effect is happening because I got 2 offers and one possibly on the way to be on other people's podcasts to promote None of Our Business, whether they do advertise or I go in there and talk about the show. So I'm glad that that worked out for them with me, and they've actually shouted us out, where now I feel like out in the universe that's gone to these other shows that I might not be a part of, but be a guest on. So I'm glad that's happening, and that is my soapbox.
Thank you, Keenan. That was a soapbox. Yeah, that was one of them.
Fuck you, bitch. What is that supposed to mean? I'm
It
not,
means I love
I can
you,
I can
man.
spit a terror rant on my roommate right now, but I'm not going
Hey,
to.
you know what? I don't want to say I
It
told you
clocked in
so.
at
but I
what? If
told
he
you so.
clocked in at what? Like, so, I don't know.
I'd rather have it be an open discussion because just
All
saying my
right.
roommate
Well,
does stuff.
okay. I'm gonna close out. This is gonna be very simple, very easy. I have 2 things that I do want to speak on tonight for my soapbox. The first one is one that I have already forgotten. Uh, Wait, what is it? Shit. Oh no. Damn, I forgot what it was.
Am I supposed to know it?
I think you might have, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Anyway, the first one didn't matter, I guess. But the what I do want to what I do want to talk about is you know, Hamilton is okay. I finally had an opportunity to watch the musical Hamilton on Disney Plus, um, and it was all right. It was cool. I know that I'll probably get some backlash on this, but it was cool. So some people say it's one of the greatest, most innovative musicals of all time, but I've seen better. Um, and I just thought it was cool. The music was great. Not all of it, but I would say a good half of the music was great. Uh, I enjoyed it. Some of the rhyme schemes were pretty good. They were definitely better than a lot of rappers that are out now who are like actual like street rappers, quote unquote hip hop rappers. So I kudos to that. But I don't feel that Hamilton was game changing. I thought it was cool, and it had a diverse cast, and the leads were all people of color, and that was awesome. Uh, but as far as like it changing me, it being an experience that I would never forget, I don't remember the songs anymore. So I mean, it was a cool musical. It was cool. Um, it just wasn't like anything that I hadn't seen before. It didn't make me feel. It didn't give me the same feels that I get when I listen to Maria from West Side Story, or it didn't give me that same angst. You know, I could go on, um, but it was cool. It was a cool musical. It was definitely a musical for its time. Um, but that's about it. And I don't think you convinced me otherwise. It was about Alexander Hamilton, and it was sensationalized. I mean, of course, it was written for the stage, so that's understandable. But it was cool. Uh, and and yeah, it was cool. For those of you listening in, um, this is our 98th episode. Joe Biden is president elect as of today. We actually recorded Saturday. We usually record Sundays for a Monday Monday drop, but this week we recorded Saturday because Andrew and Akshay were willing to help us out here and join us on this pod, which I also thank very much for joining us. But yeah, Joe Biden is president elect, and we're gonna see what happens. And that
So remember, do you didn't come back?
it didn't come back to me. I thought
Was
it
it
was gonna come back
Mandalorian?
to me. It wasn't about the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian is back. Check it out.
No spoilers.
No
Okay, we'll say
spoilers.
anything,
No
but
spoilers.
I was trying to help. I was trying to help Joe get his memory.
It's definitely worth watching. But yeah, this has been episode 98 of the None of Our Business podcast. I am your host, Joe, along with Keenan. Special guest today, we had Akshay and Andrew. In case you guys want to stalk them, it's
Yes.
Stalker45 on Call of Duty for Akshay and Kirby Pooty
Mhm.
on everything else
Everything
for
else
Andrew.
is Kirby.
I don't even know what I'm playing.
Bop, 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 bop. Ah.
I'm not.
Ah. Ah. Boom, boom, boom.
Is Akshay clapping?
That's right.
Hey,
Yeah, we're doing something.
Get it?
Whatever this is what I'm with. Bow,
I
bow,
don't know.
bow.
I was just following your movie, man.
I was like,
That was great.
that's pretty awesome. Eat your woman out.
Suck your man's dick.
Eat a sandwich.
Be empathetic,
Akshay.
you guys.
So
Thanks
sweet.
a lot, guys. Appreciate you.
You just got throw a fucking lawn dart at my ass, but it's like, motherfucker, you talking too much.
No, it's okay, Andrew.